Hello and what's up, GSC Pokemon Challenges fam? How you guys doing? We are back. Episode number 3 of the Clair Minimum Battles series. We've got a bunch of good challengers today to see if they can get through the 8th gym of Johto. We're coming in with the Arbok, Pikachu, Raichu, Sandslash, Lanturn, Togetic, and Xatu. Now, these Pokemon are a set that I'm not sure how they're gonna actually do when they get to the gym leader, because we're not talking about any Pokemon that really have any good stab here. There are resistances. Raichu, Pikachu might struggle a little bit. I think Sandslash might get wrecked. I'm honestly not sure if that Pokemon's getting through this or not. Given its weakness to the water type, it might just not have the stats to stack up there. We're gonna have to see. Then you add on that Togetic and Xatu will at least have some type weaknesses to some of the Dragonairs using things like Thunderbolt and Ice Beam. They could be pretty tough to get through here too. I would predict that we might be getting 3 out of these 7 through this section, just based on my initial impressions of what I think the fight's going to be like. But definitely tell me down below how many you think we'll get through out of this set. Now, we'll also be throwing in some member picks into this one. Since we've got the Sandslash, we've got to get that Sandshrew Pango in here. I'm also going to be jumping in with a brand new member pick that recently just came in Ponyta, to give a massive thank you to the new channel member Lavendar who joined in the highest tier of the channel memberships. It is a massive help right now, so I just can't thank you enough. We're going to get that Ponyta in here and do as well as we can and see if we can find some way to get through the Clair gym. That's going to be rough, but we're going to just have to see if we can get it to go. Then, of course, we will get Cheenchou in here since it is the unevolved form of that Lanturn. I may go for more member picks in this one if I feel like I have enough time, but for now, I'll promise those 3 as we go through, and we're just going to have to see how they go as well, because Sandshrew could just hit a wall here. Chinchou might not have the stats to progress based on the previous section, and that Ponyta is going to have a pretty bad type matchup when it does get to Clair. So we're just going to have to see if any of those get through. But let's get into this and find out. So today, let's lead off with our Arbok, our lone poison type of the episode. We are coming in with a moveset of Sludge Bomb, Glare, Dig, and Screech. Now, Sludge Bomb is our strongest same type move. We don't really learn anything for the dragon type, so that's basically all we're going to be able to use is neutral stab. We could always throw on something like Headbutt here, but you know, Screech, Glare, Sludge Bomb, that might be our best way of getting through the game. Of course, before we deal with any of that, we have to go to the Rocket storyline, so let's just get that done. Now here, Sludge Bomb doesn't help us that much because there are lots of poison types, but at least we do have Dig for coverage, so I think we're going to get through this just fine. But let's see how we do as we get to the top of the tower. So here we do make it to Marlboro Man with the Arbok, and the question is, how do we do with the Dig strats here? Let's see if we get one-hit KOs or not. Sure enough, we can see Dig is a 2-hitter here, but it is good enough to be able to Sludge Bomb down the Coughings from there. So I think that's generally my strategy, is I'm just going to dig once and then go for the Sludge Bomb. Obviously, we can't be poisoned here, so we've got less risk than a lot of other Pokemon in this fight. We get to the Wheezing. This is where I'm actually going to Screech, and it does smoke screen me, but we're going to see if we can hit the Dig. Even with that, it's not a one-hitter, but we do manage to knock that one out. We still have enough PP in Dig that I think we'll get through as long as we don't get terrible accuracy luck. Sure enough, we do seem to be progressing through this fight on the first attempt with no issues. So with that being done, we're ready to make our way to the basement, and let's see how we do against rival number 4. He is going to be leading off with the Golbat here, so we're going to have to see if we deal enough damage with Sludge Bomb, since that's the only move available to us. So we can paralyze it, we can Screech it, so I think there's plenty to go around. Screech, lowering the opponent's defense by 2 stages, effectively allows us to get rid of whatever their type resistance is against us for damage calculation purposes, so it should at least help us a little bit as we get through this one. So Rival for attempt number 1, I'm actually going to glare first at the Golbat. I accidentally glared twice. That's not what you want to do. Here we get confused and hit ourselves in confusion, but now we land the Screech. Let's see what Sludge Bomb does here. It does over half, so we're going to get the 2-hit KO here. Perfectly fine. That will bring out the Magnemite next, which we have Dig for, so this is a super easy victory. Same for the Haunter. Dig, I think will just one-shot. Sure enough, it does. That brings out Sneasel. We'll just go for the Sludge Bomb here, getting a 1-hit KO victory. And now for Alligator time. Let's see what Sludge Bomb does. It does almost enough to one-shot with a crit, and we poison the Feraligatr, and Water Gun does not do enough. So we simply get through on the first attempt. So I guess that was fine. It might have been a little more luck-based if we hadn't gotten the crit on the Feraligatr, but even then, it only did like 12 damage to us with a Water Gun, and I'm guessing that's all it's gonna really do there. Probably would do more damage with a physical move, but that's perfectly fine by me. For now, let's just make our way through all these randos in the basement and get up to the final executive at the top of the tower. And sure enough, we make it to Mr. Meet Your Doom at the top of this section. He's going to lead off with his Houndour. We're just going to go Sludge Bomb on this one. I don't think we need to even waste Dig here. Clearly, I misclicked using Sludge Bomb on Coughing. This is a Dig spot right here. But when we get to the final Houndoom, because of Stab, Sludge Bomb is technically stronger than Dig. So I'm just going Sludge Bomb here, and we get the easy 1-hit KO. So sure enough, we get through that fight. No issues. We can move on in the game. And as we go to the Clair Gym, the main thing is that we don't have a type weakness to anything here. We are just neutrally affected by everything. So the question is really if our neutral Stab with Sludge Bomb will deal enough damage, plus maybe getting the poison status to get us through that fight, or will she be able to knock us out with all of her neutrally effective moves more quickly since she has 4 Pokemon. We will be going in obviously with a level advantage. We're already at level 42, which is higher than the level of her Kingdra, and we do have Screech to increase the damage that we deal, so I feel somewhat confident that we're going to be able to find a way through with Arbok. We may need to go for our own paralysis spam and not get paralyzed by the opponents in order to do it, but I do think it's going to ultimately work out. This is basically the only Pokemon I think we're running today whose Stab is not going to be resisted and does not have a type weakness against Clair, which should help us pretty immensely, but we'll just have to see how it actually works out in practice, since, I mean, it's not like we're rocking great special defense, but it is better than our normal defense, so we can probably survive. That's my prediction, but let's just see if it actually works out here. This could even be a spot to go for something like a Poison Barb in order to boost the power of our poison type moves, but we'll look at that if we start to have trouble somewhere in the gym. For now, let's just get through the randos and make our way to Clair. Now, via level up, we could learn the move Acid, which does have some value. The move has a chance to lower the opponent's defense and his stab, but I'm just going to stick with Sludge Bomb and Dig here. I think Glare is too useful, and I think Screech could still have value for us, so I'm actually going to skip that for now. Let's move on with the moveset that we currently have. So here is we are standing in front of Clair. What we found is that we did not one-hit KO with the Sludge Bomb against the last Dragonair before her, which is only level 36. So it's one level lower than what we're dealing with here with Clair's Dragonairs. That makes me think we go for the Paralyzed Cure Berry here in order to see if that will allow us to get through or not, but I'm not sure if this is going to work out. Let's find out. So Clair attempt number 1, I'm going to first paralyze the Dragonair myself. We get Thunder Waved and paralyzed, but now we can go for the Sludge Bomb, hoping to get 2 hits and hoping that it's fully paralyzed for 1 turn. Next Dragonair comes out, it goes Thunderbolt, didn't do that much, so I'm simply going to paralyze it and start attacking after that. A couple of Thunderbolts are getting us down to 69 HP, which is very nice. As we move on to the second Dragonair, it goes for the Ice Beam. We just simply couldn't get the paralysis on it, unfortunately, so we lose. But I do think that is a strat, to go for the paralysis and try to get that to help us get the extra turns that we need. This time we just get Dragon Breath from the first of the Dragonairs, so we're still outspeeding here on the second Dragonair. We get a critical hit to to one-shot that one. I'm just going to go all in on attack here. We get another crit in a row. Are you kidding me? Now I'm glaring at the Kingdra. It goes Surf, which did decent damage. I'm going to Screech here. It Surfs again. We're on very low health. Does the Screech get the job done? It does. We get the one-hit KO after that. So Screech plus the Sludge Bomb. I mean, we could have gone for 2 Sludge Bombs in that case and also gotten the victory. But when you crit twice in the fight, apparently Arbok gets through. I think Claire has every right to be a little upset because that was a little bit cheesy to get 2 crits in a row after also getting the first Dragonair to be fully paralyzed. But keep in mind, she could have missed with the Thunder Wave 25% of the time, but that was still really lucky. And with that, we can just come down here and beat up on her little protege in the underground. We'll even poison that one so it goes down nice and easy. And let's go tell some old guys that in spite of the fact that we're clearly running as Jesse from Team Rocket, that we've turned over a new leaf, that we deserve a badge, no matter how much cheese we use to get it. This is the redemption arc for Arbok, a Pokemon that was generally associated with only bad things by the fandom in Gen 1, but now might actually have a chance to come in here and prove that it is a really good Pokemon. So of course, Claire's going to go warn Lance about our cheese, so we're going to have to find a way through Koga first. Since obviously we can't affect Fortress with the Sludge Bomb here, we're going to actually have to have a different move for that Pokemon. And I'm not sure, but neutrally effective Earthquake might be our best play there, since our only remaining level up move is Haze, which will do nothing for us, I don't think. I think we're going to have to get some serious luck to actually get through the second of the Elite Four members, but that is looking pretty far ahead for now. We're going to make it to the rival. We can get Earthquake before this fight, which is an upgrade on Dig. I'm simply going to get it. I don't think there are many situations where we would want Dig over Earthquake in the upcoming fights. Like, there were situations in Gen 1 where Dig, because it was the same power and could basically dodge certain moves, would be really useful. Here, not so much, I don't think, but let's find out. So here we will pick up the Earthquake TM. I'm once again going to avoid learning it immediately, just on the basis that it gives us more moveset flexibility as we go into the league. If we don't need Earthquake right here against the rival, we're better off not learning it so that we could forget Dig later for a different move, you know, a Headbutt or something, and then relearn a ground type move with Earthquake later on. That's my logic anyway. For now, let's get into this Rival 5 fight. So Rival 5 leads off with his Sneasel. We're going to go for the Sludge Bomb here, getting a one-hit KO. Kadabra comes out next. We'll just Sludge Bomb that Pokemon. That's a nice, easy victory. Golbat, I'm going to Screech once as it wing attacks me. Sludge Bomb is going to be a 2-hitter here after the Screech, but that's perfectly fine. Magneton, we can go for the Dig and get the one-hitter. Dig on the Haunter, also one-shot. We get to level 46 right here, and now against this Feraligatr, we poison it with the first Sludge Bomb, doing about half. Slash with the crit doesn't do enough. So just like that, Arbok goes from a Pokemon that would struggle to beat Brock on minimum battles in Gen 1 to a Pokemon that legitimately makes it to the league in Gen 2. Sludge Bomb put in some work in that section, and I think it's going to be pretty good overall. We're going to obviously need to have some slightly different strategies against Koga. I think he's the real wall here. If we could find a way through Koga, I think we have enough moves for Bruto. Karen will be a little bit random, but I think we'll be able to find a way through her as well. Then the question is Lance. But I actually think we can find a way through Willy Boy just with the stab on our Sludge Bomb. I think it will do enough damage to actually get us through that fight. I'm not sure though. We're going to have to test it out and see. We do have Hidden Power as an option as well. Since it's not like our special attack is that much worse than our normal attacking stat, we might actually end up going for a lot of paralysis strats there. We'll just have to see. For now though, Arbok is through. It's time to move on in this one. And here with Arbok successfully up there in that pass column, we're going to move on to our electric types. We've got the Raichu and Pikachu, and we've got the water electric type in Lanturn. So that means that the Chinchou is going to come in this section as well. Let's just get into these ones and see how they actually go, leading off with Raichu. So Raichu comes into this section with a moveset of Thunderbolt, Rollout, Dynamic Punch, and Mud Slap. Rollout, Dynamic Punch strats, they could work against Clair, so we're just going to have to see how this actually works out. It might just be the case that we have enough moves with this Raichu at this point that we're actually able to put a dent in the team, and at least when we get to Kingdra, that Stab Thunderbolt is neutrally effective, so we can use that move in an effort to try to get a victory. First up though, we've got to get through all of these randos, so let's just beat them up and see how we do progressing with levels. Basically everything today, except for I think the Togetic line, is in the medium slow or slow level up group, so we are going to be at lower levels in this one, and that could affect things a little bit, but at this point I think we basically just get through with everything against the Rockets, since we don't have anything weak to poison in this episode. Still, we'll have to see if that's how it actually works out. Let's get through this section and get up to the Marlboro Man. And sure enough, Raichu makes it to the Marlboro Man. It's time to see if we can get through this guy and his smoking and coughing and wheezing. Let's go for Thunderbolt on the first coughing. That is a one-hit KO. That makes me think that we're getting through all of these coughings super easy. That just means that we have to deal with this wheezing, which is a two-hitter, but we can even mud slap it down from there. That guarantees the victory. So the Marlboro Man sometimes is actually the toughest of all of the Rockets. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen any of the other Rockets be a wall like the Marlboro Man has. Still, in this case, he goes down nice and easy. We're ready to head to the basement and rival number 4. So rival 4, attempt number 1 right here. He leads off with the Golbat. We are going to go for Thunderbolt there. That's an easy one-hit KO victory. Magnemite comes out next. I go Dynamic Punch, getting the one-shot. That will bring out the Haunter, which we can Thunderbolt, and we still one-hit KO, getting to level 38. We'll Thunderbolt here on the Sneasel. It's going to be a two-hitter, and we get a couple of quick attacks, but that's just fine. Meganium is out last. I'm going to try to Dynamic Punch this Pokemon to confuse it. We do. We get a couple of body slams here, but now I guess we just Thunderbolt the rest of the way, and we do in fact get the victory, even though it never hit itself in confusion. So turns out that Raichu's perfectly fine, and we're able to move on in this section. Now I should note I'm giving myself a bunch of hyper potions here, and I have programmed a hotkey on my overlay to just replenish my PP. That's just because we could constantly run out to the Pokemon Center and heal up that way. It's just tedious to do so. So I'm doing it this way just for the sake of saving time as I go through all of these Pokemon. Since we have so many to do, you got to think about the literal hundreds and hundreds of times I would be running out to the Pokemon Center over the course of the series. It's just a quality of life thing. It doesn't change the results in any way, shape, or form, since you could obviously just always run out to heal in order to make sure that you had full health and had full PP for each of these fights. And sure enough, rollout strats were good enough for the trainer just before the final executive, where we used rollout to get through his Vileplume. So now we can get to the final executive, and all we need to do here, I think, is just Thunderbolt the whole way. Houndour goes down with a single hit. We Thunderbolt on the coughing, that also goes down. And now Houndoom has pretty good special stats overall. It's much less physically defensive. So let's try Dynamic Punch, and that does get us the victory on the first attempt. So we easily win. We're ready to move on to Clair. Now in the Clair fight, I'm going to be most interested to see if maybe, just maybe, we end up going for some sort of Dynamic Punch strat in order to get some confusion. And then maybe we can use that to set up a move like Rollout to get through the Dragonairs. We'll just have to see how it actually goes. But that is a possible strat here, especially with a Paralyzed Cure Berry on and the confusion on the opponent. We might be able to set up enough to actually get through some Dragonairs here with that strategy. And if that works, then I'm gonna go for it, since I think the real thing here is that we just need to not get paralyzed. And if we can manage to get through to the final Kingdra with any sort of decent health, we can probably just win the damage race with the Thunderbolt. That's my guess. Though in desperate situations, we could go for the accuracy strats and or the Dynamic Punch strats in order to get the victory as well. So just seeing the moveset here, I just feel like we're going to have enough tools to get through. I'm not sure about Pikachu, though. Pikachu does have the double team strats. I'm not sure they're going to be strong enough to get a consistent win here. We'll just have to see. But for now, Raichu is ready to make its way into the gym with no really strong moves. So we're going to have to see how it goes against these randos. So Thunderbolt did manage to two-shot on the Dragonair just before Clair, but it was just barely getting the range. So I do think we're going to need to go for something like Dynamic Punch here in order to try to get through these Dragonairs. We're going to need the Paralyzed Cure Berry. We may be hoping for some Paralysis Luck here. Let's just see what kind of ranges we actually get though. So Clair attempts number 1 on the first Dragonair. I'm going to try to set up Dynamic Punch. We miss, but we heal with the Paralyzed Cure Berry when it just goes for the Thunder Wave. We get it confused the next turn. It hits itself in confusion, and that will allow us to simply knock it out. Let's get to the second Dragonair. We'll go back for Dynamic Punch. We once again confuse it. It does Thunder Wave us here, but Thunderbolt should take this one down from this range. So we do manage to get through to the third Dragonair. It goes Slam. We're fully paralyzed, but then it misses Slam. That allows us to get the confusion. Slam again, but we'll simply knock it out from there. That brings us to Kingdra. It goes Surf turn 1, dealing really massive damage after a crit. We get the confusion with the Dynamic Punch. It hits itself. We go Thunderbolt and we win. Oh my goodness. The Dynamic Punch. Of course, it hit like 4 out of 5 times there, but it does manage to get the job done with the confusion and the fact that after we hit one Dynamic Punch, we basically have everything in a one-hit KO range. That worked. That worked. Paralysis on us and everything. Raichu just manages to cheese its way through the fight. Of course, that means now that we're making our way off to rival number 5. And, well, Claire's going to try to warn Lance about this Raichu. Lance is actually going to struggle more because he's a flying type gym leader. So he's not going to have the Pokemon to actually stack up against this one if we can get there. Still, we're going to have to get there first. There are a lot of potential walls in front of us, including the rival's Magneton here. We're going to have to see how much damage the Mud Slap does. And if we get paralyzed there, we may need the Paralyzed Cure Berry again for this fight. But I actually feel pretty confident about Raichu going forward now. It has speed. It has, I think, enough stats and coverage that it might actually be getting through this section of the game. For now, though, let's tell some old guys about how great we are at Pokemon, even though we forced a Pikachu to evolve into a Raichu, which clearly makes us a monster according to the anime. So here we'll still get their approval and get the Rising Badge, and it's on to Rival 5. So here, let's see how Raichu does against the final rival battle. He leads off with the Sneasel. We're just going to go for the Thunderbolt here, getting a one-hit KO. That will bring out the Magneton. Dynamic Punch is technically the strongest move. It misses a Thunder Wave, and then we get the one-hit KO there. We can go back to Thunderbolt for Haunter. Perfectly fine. Kadabra. I'm just going to stick with the Thunderbolt. That does get the one-hitter. Meganium comes out. Let's punch it, and it gets confused. It goes for Reflect right there. We'll go to Thunderbolt after that. It's just a two-hitter and it hits itself once in confusion. That brings out Golbat, which never stood a chance. So just like that, Raichu destroys rival number 5. It's on to the league. It's ready to go into the fight with Willy Boy, where like 3 of his Pokemon are weak against electric. We could obviously go for the Hidden Power Dark strategy if we absolutely need to, but I think we'll be able to find a way through. Dynamic Punch is going to be fine for that Jinx. Slowbro and the 2 Xatus are going to hate the Thunderbolt, so we just have to find a way to get through the Exeggutor, which might come down to like a rollout strat or something there. We'll just have to see how that works out. But for now, this Raichu gets through to the Pokemon League with no real issues. It was pretty smooth outside of like Jasmine. Like that's really not bad for this Pokemon. With that being done, it's now time to look at Lanturn though, the other fully evolved electric type, though it does also have the dual water type, and see how it does in this section. So here with our Lanturn, we are coming in with Thunder, Thunder Wave, Surf, and Return. So we're going to be able to go Thunder Wave strats against Clair to get a little revenge for how much she likes to Thunder Wave us. Plus, we've got 2 of our strongest same type moves. So this is probably the best shot that we've got to get through with this Pokemon. The slow level up group is the thing that has been holding it back this entire time, but maybe we're reaching a point where it's just so strong with its moveset that it's going to be able to get through anyway. We're just gonna have to see. I love how they give this one like a Magikarp sprite in the party overview to kind of let you know that it's not like a world beater in spite of the fact that it has decent stats. It's just in that slow level up group, so it doesn't really really match up well. We'll have to see how this one goes, but for now, we've got at least neutrally effective moves for everything, so we should be fine to get through all these random rockets. Gonna have to see how we do against the Marlboro Man going in at a lower level. I can absolutely imagine this Pokemon going for a Rain Dance strat at some point on the basis that it's not doing enough damage with Surf, and that move also synergizes well with the Thunder that we've already put on to be in the OPTMs category. So at this point, the Thunder is, I feel, perfectly legit to have. Now, we could level up and learn Confuse Ray here. I'm not sure we want to go for the Confusion status. Thunder Wave might be better just because it's more consistent and allows us to outspeed. Confusion plus Paralysis could be kind of interesting, but I think we're better off with the moveset that we currently have. Tell me if you think that's a mistake in the comment section down below, but for now, I'm going to skip that move. So with that, we do make it to Marlboro Man. Let's see if Surf and or Thunder is enough to get the one-hit KOs here. So first up, against the Coughing, we can go Surf, and that is a one-hitter. So that means that we're getting through the 5 Coughings on this team just fine. I expect Wheezing to be the only Pokemon that can stand up to a hit, and in that case, we might as well go Thunder just to see, even with the strongest move, we do not get the one-hit KO. We'll just return that one down, and now we did get a Smoke Screen, but that shouldn't really affect things too much as we just surf down the last 2 Coughings. So sure enough, we get through the Marlboro Man. You can just douse him in water, and apparently he can't do anything from there, which is just a reminder, kids, don't be like the Marlboro Man. Anyway, we can now make our way to rival number 4. Let's see how this fight goes. He leads off with the Golbat. I'm going to go Thunder here since it is super effective. I just want to make sure I get the one-hitter there. Meganium comes out next, and we don't have any super effective stab. I'm going to Thunder Wave on this Pokemon. It goes Poison Powder turn 1. Let's see what the return does. It goes then for the Reflect. Surf obviously isn't going to do great. We get poisoned right here. We'll go Thunder. Razor Leaf did quite a bit, but we do manage to knock that one out. We can Surf against the Magnemite. Haunter, I'm going to stick with the Surf here. Let's just see if it's enough. It is. And now Sneasel, coming in as the Dark Ice type, will simply go for the Surf, getting the one-hit KO. So it turns out the rival really isn't that bad. We can get through him on the first attempt. We'll just go ahead and heal up and make our way through the rest of these randos. Really, the Grass type is the main wall that we have here, though both of our stab typings are also going to be resisted when we get to Clair, and that's what's got me a little nervous. Thunder might be just fine on the final Kingdra. We'll just have to see, but for the Dragonairs themselves, I always think that water types will also learn ice type moves because that was basically true in Gen 1. But here in Gen 2, this is a water type that does not learn any ice type moves. So we're going to simply have to rely on neutral non-stab moves like Return, or with stab moves that are resisted like Surf and Thunder to see if they deal enough damage to get us through that gym. And that's where maybe not having the Parafusion strategies here is actually bad, because we could end up not having enough damage dealing output to get through our opponents, and the Paralysis plus Confusion could have bought us those turns. Honestly, I'm not sure. We'll just have to see when we get there. Still, for this one, I actually think the second to last executive is the one that's worth talking about, since she's going to have a Vileplume on her team and we don't have any good moves for the Vileplume. I think Mr. Meet Your Doom just gets wrecked by a bunch of Surfs, so we may as well look at her fight instead. So this trainer here is basically an upgraded Jessie, so let's just see how she goes. She leads off with the Arbok. I'm going to go Thunder here on the basis that I've basically been seeing that Surf doesn't get the range. Instead, we get paralyzed and we can't move and we miss every single turn. So that's the problem with the Thunder strat. And then it still doesn't one-hit KO, so we're probably losing this first attempt. We get to the Vileplume. Let's just see what the return does here. It looks like it 3-hit KO. We are, of course, getting absorbed, and we're on very low health as we go to Murkrow. It goes Pursuit, and we simply lose. Let's try this one again. This time I'm just going to go for Surf turn 1, since it's doing almost as much damage as Thunder. Now we'll go Return on the Vileplume. We know it's going to want to absorb, but we get the 3-hitter there, and with that, we're going to get a very easy victory. Probably don't even need Thunder for Murkrow. Just Surf is enough, and so we get the victory. And now I don't even think we need a heal going into Mr. Meet Your Doom, because because we can just spam surf the entire way. Coughing doesn't have enough special defense, and the Houndoom gets destroyed. So we get through that on the second attempt. Not super pretty, but we did get the job done. But now we have to get to a real challenge, which is going to be the Clair gym. I can think of a few strategies that could work here. We could go for some sort of like King's Rock strat in order to try to get flinches after we paralyze against the Dragonairs. We could try to get Rain Dance in order to guarantee that Thunder hits and make Surf much stronger. I'm honestly just not sure what's going to actually work here, though. This is one of those Pokemon that just doesn't really offer a clear, obvious strategy. Since we have fairly low attack, we don't have the stats of a lot of other Pokemon here because we're in that slow level up group, and we don't have like some sort of neutral stab to use here. So we may be fishing for a bit of luck in order to get through this one. Still, I think all of our moves have basically been necessary. If I were to have forgotten anything for the Confuse Ray, honestly, I think it would have been Thunder, since number one, the move is relearnable, and number two, it is so inaccurate that there are a lot of spots where you'd prefer not to use Thunder. You'd prefer to use like Surf twice or something, because you're probably getting through with the same amount of attempts on a lot of fights. Still, we're just going to have to see how it actually goes in this gym. Given that we are in that slow level up group, we don't have that many extra levels even on the Dratini's. Sure enough, the Dratini's are 2-hit KOs here with the return. So we need a lot of luck to get through all these fights. I think we'll be perfectly fine against the Seadras that are on the upper floor. It's the dragons that I'm worried about. Can we get a 2-hit range against Clair's dragons? If we can, then maybe we'll be fine, but we'll just have to see. Now, we did manage to 2-hit KO with return on the Dragonair just before Clair. And as I mentioned back on one of the Mewtwo full game solo runs, slow Pokemon get to Clair on minimum battles at the same level as their ace. So it's just that you get so much experience in that rocket section that it does actually help these Pokemon quite a bit to at least be competitive here. We're going to have to see if it's enough when we go into the Clair fight, though. Since we're basically a special attacker, but our special stab is all resisted, this could be rough. So Clair attempt number one, I'm going to go Thunder Wave on the first Dragonair. And of course, then I misclick and use it again. And we didn't put on the Paralyzed Cure Berry. Let's fix both of those issues. So as we come into this fight again, we will once again go Thunder Wave on the first Dragonair. It misses its Thunder Wave. We'll go Return, doing about half. It Thunder Waves after that, but we recover. So we can simply knock out the first Dragonair. Now, second Dragonair, I think we stick with the Thunder Wave here. At least we'll outspeed after it Thunder Waves us. It goes Thunderbolt, that didn't do that much damage. The next Dragonair doesn't have any really strong moves against us, so it's just stuck using Dragon Breath. We can paralyze it. Once it's paralyzed, we are faster. We're going again for our 2-hit KO range with the return. That brings us to Kingdra, which basically has to go Hyper Beam or Dragon Breath here, I think. It goes Surf, interestingly enough, but we will paralyze this Pokemon then. Thunder does a critical hit one-shot. Oh, Lanturn. Oh, the cheese, the hacks. Getting through on the first attempt with the lucky Thunder crit. What is this luck I'm getting today? This is ridiculous. I swear to God, I do not manipulate any of this. This is how it's actually just shaking out in these battles. And then I forget to heal going into the underground, so we actually lose there. Just going back to test this, it turns out that definitely Kingdra is not a one-hitter here. It's a two-hitter, so you would need to land multiple Thunders in order to get through that. Sorry, I had her frozen just so that I could test the ranges, but that is hilarious. Like, the luck that we are getting today is actually insane, because just how do we keep getting the crit that we need on that Kingdra? It's like the Kingdra has, you know, some ability that sets up focus energy on the opponent or something. Clearly, this needs to be investigated. Ask RSC Pokemon Challenges to do a video on a Kingdra that has a new ability that forces the opponent to always have a +1 stage to its crit chance against it, because that's clearly what's going on in this one. We're going to come explain the epic story of how we one-shot that Kingdra on the first attempt to these old guys. They're going to just all nod their heads in approval to this, because that is the way that we get through the Clair fight. You know, these guys have been waiting here for years to hear a story like that. And with that, they're going to tell Clair to give us that badge. They're going to make Magikarp start spawning in front of us here as we go through the rest of the Dragon's Den. They're like, you are Magikarp level. But with that, we're ready to move on. Let's go back to New Bark Town and make our way to Rival 5. And here, I think we've got enough moves to get through everything. We're just going to have to see about the Rivals team, but I think this is going to work out. So let's just test it and find out for sure. So Rival 5 attempt number 1, he leads off with the Sneasel. Let's just go Surf here. It does outspeed and use Screech. And this is a 2-hit KO as it goes Quick Attack after that. But we do manage to get through. We get to level 42. I'm going to Paralyze the Meganium. Let's go for Return here. It's not doing great damage. We get Body Slammed once. It's fully paralyzed another turn. Now we get paralyzed, but we do knock that Pokemon out. That brings out the Magneton though, and it is faster, but it just goes Swift. So we managed to get the 2-hitter on that Pokemon. Out comes the Haunter. It goes Shadow Ball and ends me. We're going to need a better range against specifically that Magneton in order to get this one to go. Let's see if Thunder gets the 1-hitter on Sneasel. It does not, but it gets paralyzed, so we can just knock it out after that. Back to Meganium. This is the trouble Pokemon. It goes Poison Powder right there. We're really hoping not to get hit by Razor Leaf. Instead, it body slams us though and gets us to low health, and we were poisoned, so we got wrecked. Let's try this one again. We get fully paralyzed turn 1, body slam after that. We might need a paralyzed Cure Berry to get through this one, just on the basis that it is body slamming rather than going for the Razor Leaf against us. Let's just see if that affects things, because if we weren't paralyzed, we might be able to win against the rest of the team. So here we get a crit with Thunder that one-shots against the first Sneasel, so that's perfectly fine. We'll paralyze Meganium again. We're going for Return here. Again, it's a 4-hit KO, but we get great paralysis luck this time, so we get through with no status. We can go Surf on the Magneton. It goes Thunder Wave, but we just recover, so we're getting through that Pokemon still on full health. We can go Surf on the Haunter, which is a 1-hit KO. Kadabra, I'm going to go Return since it has lower defense. That gets the 1-hitter. And now Golbat, we go Thunder, and we actually get the victory. That was kind of lucky. I'm not gonna lie. We got a run where the Meganium never hit us with anything. It was just fully paralyzed for the 4 turns that we needed in order to knock that Pokemon out. That's not gonna happen again. And we still had the paralyzed Cure Berry on for the Magneton because we weren't getting a 1-hit KO there. That's just nuts. Lanturn just cheeses its way through this section of the game. Oh, that probably didn't deserve to get through. I'm just gonna be honest. That this was probably supposed to be a fail. I was thinking about trying like a Pink Bow strat in order to see if I could get something with that, or you know, maybe go for a Rain Dance strat in order to make something work with that. Turns out we just cheese our way through with our current moveset. We're gonna have to see how this Pokemon goes when we get into the next fight. The Exeggutor could be the wall for this Lanturn, especially if it starts going for the Leech Seed strats. We've seen Leech Seed be completely OP, but who knows? Maybe Thunder just one-shots everything, and that's fine. We're just gonna have to see how it goes in the next section, but for now, Lanturn gets through. Let's look at Pikachu and Cheenchou and see how they go. So it's time to find out if the series mascot has what it takes in order to get through this sort of challenge. We're coming in with Thunderbolt, Mud Slap, Double Team, and Dynamic Punch. We saw Dynamic Punch put in work with the evolved form, so that makes me feel a little bit of confidence here that we can get the confusion strats, that we can obviously go for evasion strats. We've got a lot of broken stuff here. The question is it enough? I think the first thing to point out here is that we're not necessarily one-shotting things with Thunderbolt, even though it is our strongest move. So there could be some luck involved here. Of course, it probably depends on the opponent's special defense. So I think we still have reasonable chances of getting through everything. We might just want to switch to Dynamic Punch for Eradicate if we see one in this section. So here we make it to the Marlboro Man. Let's just see how it goes with Pikachu. We Thunderbolt on the Coughing, and that is a 1-hit KO. That makes me think we're perfectly fine here. Weezing's going to be the only one to survive a hit. and we may just have the ranges to get through here. If this is a 2-hitter, we're perfectly fine. It just misses tackle. That guarantees that the Marlboro Man goes down to the series mascot Pikachu, proving that Pikachu is a far better mascot than the Marlboro Man. I'm just saying that, you know, if I had to choose which to show my son, the Marlboro Man or Pikachu, I'm going Pikachu all day, guys. So it's time to take on Rival 4 with Pikachu. He leads off with the Golbat. I'm simply going to Thunderbolt this Pokemon, getting an easy victory. That will bring out the Magnemite. Let's go for Dynamic Punch. We miss. That's probably the end of this one because we kind of want to hit the Dynamic Punch here and we simply can't, so we lose. Let's try this again. We might even go for some evasion on the first Golbat on the basis that it doesn't really have anything too threatening, like Bite, yes, but we're already faster, so there's no flinch. And if we set up all of the evasion here, we probably don't even need a Paralyzed Cure Berry. We know this Pokemon's a 1-hit KO after that. Sure enough, it's not. It's a 2-hitter. So we still managed to get through. We're back to Magnemite and we're back going for a Dynamic Punch. We hit the second one and that does get us through that Pokemon. Haunter, we can go back to Thunderbolt. It's not a 1-hitter, but we'll just slap it from there. It didn't go Curse. That's perfectly fine. Sneasel, back to the Thunderbolt. It's going to be a 2-hit KO as well. It hits the Feint attack. That brings us to the final Meganium. We're punching it. It does about a third and Meganium gets confused. It goes Reflect right there. I'm going to start Mud Slapping here just to lower its accuracy even more and make it even less likely that we take any damage here until that Reflect fades. Once the Reflect fades, back to Dynamic Punch since that will do the most damage. We get it confused again. I'll use my final Thunderbolt there and that does get the job done. So just a couple attempts there to get through the Rival. It wasn't super consistent by any means, but it did work out in the end. The evasion strats are basically enough. An evasion plus Mud Slap is kind of OP because they do stack. You can stack evasion with accuracy. I've seen people in comment sections below say, no, it's capped at, 6 stages, total. And no, it's not. You can, at least in these old generations of the games, stack 6 evasion boosts and 6 accuracy drops to get even lower odds of getting hit by your opponent. It's actually one of the strategies that could be even used in competitive where you rotate. You do 1 evasion boost, 1 accuracy drop, 1 evasion boost, 1 accuracy drop, and that actually increases the total odds of not getting hit more than just using the same move like double team twice in a row. Because you got to think, you're getting the full effect of the first stage of accuracy and the first stage of evasion when you do that strat. It's kind of broken. So we're going to see if we can use that to just completely break the game with Pikachu. Since it does have plot armor, we know that this Pokemon is destined to win every fight, no matter what, no matter the odds. Exactly as the Pokemon Company intended. Now here we level up to level 41. We could learn the move Thunder. I'm going to stick with Thunderbolt on the basis that it's more accurate and it has more PP. I think we're going to need that as we go through these sections, since it's really our only strong move that has at least a decent amount of accuracy and PP in it, and strength. Really, the Mud Slap and Dynamic Punch are more here for trolley strats to go together with our double team, and that's basically the strategy that we're probably going to run for quite a while with Pikachu, is just trying to cheese our way through every single fight. So sure enough, we make it to Mr. Meet Your Doob at the top of the tower, where I don't even think we need to go for the evasion strats. I think we're perfectly fine here. Thunderbolt one-shots the Houndour. Thunderbolt on the Coughing is a 1-hit KO. We might 2-hit KO here against the Houndoom, so I'm going to go Dynamic Punch instead, and that does get the 1-hit KO victory. That's the only spot where I think it's better to YOLO with the Dynamic Punch, since Houndoom does have really low defense relative to its special defense. That seems to be the best play in that section. But now with that, it's time to make our way to Claire's gym, where I think it's going to be all about evasion, Dynamic Punch, and even some Mud Slap cheese in order to get through these fights. But I do think Pikachu has enough trolley strats to actually get through here. Now, I've got to admit, we're already outperforming my expectations for this episode pretty significantly. I thought that the Lanturn was going to get wrecked, and I thought that Raichu wasn't going to be that great here. It turns out that they both were perfectly fine, granted with some kind of god tier luck. We have to see if my luck continues with the Pikachu, or if this is the point where it's like we set up 6 double teams and we still get get hit by everything and get critical hits against us, etc. That could certainly be coming in at some point here pretty quick. So I found in this gym so far that Dynamic Punch just barely can get a range to one-shot these Dratinis, though it's not guaranteed. When we get paralyzed, that's always bad news for us. And now on the Dragonair, I'm pretty sure that it's going to be a two-hitter. Sure enough, it is. So we need quite a bit of luck just to get through the trainer before Clair with this setup. So it's actually probably reasonable to go for double team here in order to try to get enough misses to get through this fight, though it's not going to be great either way. Still, we get it to go eventually. It's just not pretty. I think the Paralyzed Cure Berry's gonna have to come in here, and we're just gonna have to hope for an awful lot of accuracy luck in this one. So Clair attempt number 1, I'm going to set up Dynamic Punch first, because if it doesn't hit, we just know to reset, but we know that once it hits, there's a 50-50 chance the opponent hits themselves in confusion, which is basically what we're banking on here. Then I'll go double team, followed by a Mud Slap, and then I'm going to finish my double team setup on this Pokemon. The entire logic here being that we just want to have the evasion for later on in the fight. Of course, we still get knocked out when we actually get hit by all the moves. We can see that Dynamic Punch is 2-hit KOing against the Dragonairs. The problem here, of course, is that it has low accuracy and it doesn't have a ton of PP. So we're always going to be stuck in this situation where we're going to be needing a lot of turns to get through these Pokemon. Now, once we get everything set up, we can knock out the first Dragonair, though we are paralyzed and on very low HP. We get slammed by the next Dragonair, and that's the end of that one. This time, the first Dragonair knocks itself out in confusion. So we're going back to the Dynamic Punch for the second Dragonair. We're just missing here, and we are getting hit by Slam quite a few times. So while we do finally get it to be confused, we simply could not get through at that point. Even with some evasion and accuracy setup, it just wasn't enough. This time we get a crit on the first Dragonair, and then it knocks itself out in confusion. So we have no setup so far. We get to the second Dragonair, we miss the first Dynamic Punch, it hits with the Thunder Wave, now it goes Slam, and we're back to our setup on this Pokemon. After it misses a couple slams, we knock it out with the second Mud Slap that we set up there. We're back to Dynamic Punch for the third Dragonair. It does get confused, it hits itself. We're going to continue with the double team and Mud Slap setup here as we get hit by an Ice Beam. At this range, I do think we just try to knock this one out. Let's get to the final Kingdra. I'm going to try to Mud Slap once, but it just knocked me out with a Surf. Still, we got through to Kingdra on that one, so that gives us some semblance of a chance here. It's going to require an awful lot of luck no matter how we do it, but we can at least see that some ranges are coming into play here that could help us out. This time back to the third Dragonair, but on low health. We hit the final Dynamic Punch that we had, and now we're going Thunderbolt the rest of the way, and Kingdra time. It misses Dragon Breath. I'm giving it one Mud Slap to lower its accuracy. We can see Thunderbolt looks like a 3-hitter here. We get her down into a low HP range. She's gonna Hyper Potion. We're gonna need 2 more hits. She hits the Hyper Beam. Again, she has an accuracy drop. We've got +6 evasion. It just wasn't enough to actually get us through. A few attempts later, we are back to Kingdra though. We're once again trying to Mud Slap this Pokemon to get its accuracy down. This time I went for 3 accuracy drops before going into the Thunderbolt. She hits Hyper Beam and we lose. So it's always going to be luck-based. We're going to need a run where she gets lots of bad accuracy rolls in order to get through that final Kingdra, since it isn't like a 1 or 2 hit KO range there. So we basically just have to do our best with what we've got here. This time we get back to the Kingdra with no paralysis on. We still have a Dynamic Punch. Unfortunately, we miss, but we've got a bunch of Mud Slaps left over. So I'm going hard on the Mud Slap strat, then into the Thunderbolt. We force the Hyper Potion yet again here. A crit would get us the victory, and the miss gets us the victory. So it took a bunch of attempts there, but Pikachu does ultimately manage to just cheese its way through that fight. I think it took like 15 attempts there. Sorry, I didn't see the attempts counter at the end, but it's all dependent on just pure accuracy luck the entire time. I decided ultimately to go for the strategy of just setting everything up on the first Dragonair as far as the double team, and then basically YOLOing against the Dragonairs after that to get to Claire's final Kingdra, where we could then set up a bunch of Mud Slaps and try to get through. And of course, if you've still got Dynamic Punch there, it's worth it. It's neutrally effective. You could get the confusion. So I think it was worth using that final PP of that move there just to see, but ultimately we managed to get through in the end. So while definitely not the prettiest Clair fight, the mascot of the Pokemon franchise is moving on, where he's going to be now trying to cheese his way through the Pokemon League. That is, of course, assuming we get through the Rival, but I see no reason why Rival 5 would be a wall after all that we've done. Like, canonically, you know, this is Pikachu. That means we're like Red here, and Red absolutely destroys Silver. Silver never stands a chance against Red. So that would be a challenge that would be worth trying someday, to do a Silver's team challenge where you have exactly the Pokemon at the exact levels that he has at every point in the game, assuming that he's already beaten the gym leaders that are in the area. So like, of course, for the first Silver fight, you would have to be at level 5, just like him. After that, you could get your 3 Pokemon, your Ghastly, your Zubat, and your starter, to the exact levels that they have when you fight Rival 2. That would be the level cap. Then you would have a level cap of the team, you know, with the Haunter and Magnemite with the exact level cap for Rival 3. You'd go to Rival 4 with his exact level cap, Rival 5 with his exact level cap, and then you could use Rival 6 as essentially the last one. I know that you can encounter him at the Pokemon League on certain days after that, but I would basically treat that as his final level cap, is the Rival 6 fight, the one where he finally is like, I tried to love my Pokemon. That will be the point where we see if he's strong enough to get through Blue and Red with his team. You know, going from solo challenges to team challenges, I actually think that would be kind of fun to do. I don't usually like to do team challenges unless there's something very specific that I'm trying to show with the team challenge, and that could be interesting to see if Silver actually ever becomes good enough to get through the Pokemon League, get through Red. Obviously, we would need to try to copy his strategy as much as we could, and honestly, when he gets to Rival 5, he's kind of underleveled for the league, so I'm not sure how we would do with actually staying like at the proper levels for his Pokemon at that point, but it would be very interesting to see if he could ever actually beat the league with his team. It might depend on the exact team that we take. I would probably give him the advantage of having the Bayleaf team just to test that out and see, since that does seem to be the strongest, at least early on. That could be a really fun challenge to try though, which, by the way, if you've seen somebody else do a similar challenge, I have to always note that whenever I do challenges, I basically intentionally don't look up if anybody else has done it or like what strategies they used, because I generally don't want to know. I prefer to go in blind, not knowing what will actually work out, so that I can kind of figure it out on my own. That's the fun of playing Pokemon for me, is the puzzle. I love when you guys just give me feedback and advice for, you know, a second run, or if I ever go back and do it again. But the reason why I do these live without damage calculations or anything is because that's what's fun to me, is figuring out the game on the fly. So it would be really fun to see if this team right here for Rival 5 could actually find a way through the league. And depending on what levels they got to, I mean, this would have to be the level cap for the league, I would have to think. So we would be coming in with his level 34 Sneasel right here, which I think I'm going to Dynamic Punch. That will get a one-hit KO victory. Magneton comes out. We land another Dynamic Punch, getting a one-hitter. He comes out with the Haunter. The Haunter's pretty trolly, but Thunderbolt is not a one-hit KO. It just goes Confuse Ray though, giving me the victory there. We miss a couple turns there against the Kadabra and get Future Sight. We get disabled. I'm just going to Mud Slap that Pokemon down, but now I think we have to go Dynamic Punch on the Meganium on low health. It hits itself in confusion. We go Dynamic Punch again here, getting it to low health. It hits itself again. Dynamic Punch, yes. Oh, we get the cheese, but now we've got the problem that our Thunderbolt's disabled. No, a double team. We snap out a disability. Thunderbolt one-shots there against the final Golbat. Oh, the Rival, he got wrecked. Oh, the disability came off right at the right time, and Bite didn't do enough. Otherwise, we were going to get completely destroyed there after all that dynamic punch luck that we got on the Meganium. Oh, Pikachu, you have plot armor beyond anybody's comprehension. I don't care what anime franchise you have ever watched, whether it's Dragon Ball or One Punch Man or Naruto or One Piece or whatever. I am saying right now that nothing has ever had as much plot armor as Pikachu in the anime. Prove me wrong, but for now, Pikachu gets through and it is on to the league. We've got to do that member pick Cheenchou, which is going to be rough, but we're going to do our best for our channel member Star DF on that one. So let's get into this. So here we are with Cheenchou, the ultimate Pokemon, coming in with Thunder, Surf, Confuse Ray, and Return. That means we are going to be going for some confusion strats to try to get through this one. We have significantly lower stats than our evolved form, which is why I don't think this one's necessarily going to work out. We're just going to have to see. Now, we should still have some rare candies available if we get desperate, and we are going to get a bunch of levels as we go through the Rocket Hideout. So those are the two things that we've got going for this Cheenchou as we go through this section. I just don't think the damage output is going to be there with our moves. Here we can come into the Rocket storyline. We can try to Thunder on the Eradicate. Fortunately, that does get a one-hit KO, so maybe we're going to be fine. As long as we can one-hit KO somehow, I think we're good to go. Let's just see how this works out. Of course, it depends very much on the stats of the opponent though. Against the weaker opponents, we can definitely go Surf and just get some pretty easy victories. So I think that's the general strat as we go through this section. But anytime we run into like a Muck, we're going to have to switch to Thunder here. And even then we don't get the two-hitter. So yeah, this is going to be a little bit rough. Still, we don't have any weaknesses in this section. So I think that helps us quite a bit. And maybe we can cheese just like our evolved form did when we get to Clair. So now as we go to Marlboro Man, I'm going to see if Surf is enough for the Coughings. If it is, that is the best way to go because we would rather have the consistent move. Otherwise, if we're stuck with Thunder, we're going to need a lot of accuracy luck here. Let's see how this actually works out. So here we go Surf on the first Coughing, and it does get the one-hitter as we get to level 34. That makes me feel pretty good about this fight. That makes me think that it's basically just a bunch of Surf one-hits, except here against the Wheezing. I'm going to go Thunder here, and that should get it in a two-hit KO range. That's perfectly fine, and that means the rest of the Coughings don't pose any threat to us, so we easily get through and get to level 35. We're on to the basement and to fight against rival number 4 here. So rival 4 attempt number 1. I think we lead off with Thunder on the Golbat. It does get the one-hitter. That brings out Meganium. We are going to confuse this Pokemon. Please hit yourself. It goes for Reflect instead, and that makes me think we've got to go Thunder. We get the Paralysis. So we've got some Parafusion going on here. We're just going to need a lot of good turns. We get a Razor Leaf miss. Then we get hit by the Razor Leaf, but we do manage to get through with the Thunder strats. That brings us to Magnemite. We hit the Surf and get the victory. Surf on the Haunter is a two-hitter. We would have needed to go Thunder there to get the victory on that one. So we're getting back to Meganium the next attempt. Let's just see if we get a better range here. This time it hits itself in Confusion, so I'm going to go for Return since it's neutrally effective. As long as it doesn't get any major hits on us, we're going to be good. We've got higher HP going to the Magnemite this time, so we'll hit the Surf right there. I'm going to go Thunder on the Haunter. That does get the one-hit KO. Let's stick with the Thunder on the Sneasel. It's not a one-hitter. Then I went Thunder by mistake. We want to go Surf after that, but we still get the victory, getting to level 36. So only one reset there on the rival. That's really not too bad for a first stage Pokemon that is as frail as this one is. We'll take it. Let's get through the rest of these randos and hopefully get up to the final executive. Now we level up and could learn Takedown, but we already have the move Return, so there's no reason to learn that move. We'll just stick with our moveset as is in this section. So here we make it to the top of the radio tower. Really, this wannabe Jessie right here is more the potential wall for this Pokemon. So I'm going to look at this fight. We 2-hit KO the Arbok with Surf. I think we now need to confuse the Vileplume, hoping it hits itself. It does once. Return here is looking like a 3-hitter. It hits itself again and again. So we get through with no damage from that Pokemon. I'm going to Thunder on the Murkrow if we can actually land a hit. We finally do, and that gets us through, and we're ready to take on the final executive. Let's just see how he goes. I think Surf destroys him, but let's find out. So Mr. Beat Your Doom leads off with the Houndour. We just go for Surf, getting the easy 1-hit KO. That brings out the Coughing, which is also going to get wrecked. And now Houndoom is going to not survive. There we go. So we get a 1-hitter on all 3 of those Pokemon. We're on to Claire's gym, and this is where things are going to get a little rough because we don't have great moves. Confusion strats are definitely coming in here. I think the Paralyzed Cure Berry is going to be the way to go, but we could investigate a lot of other strategies. We could even get to the point of using other items in order to get better ranges. We'll just have to see. For now, though, I think that the Paralyzed Cure Berry is going to be my strategy going into the fight. And here we find on the Dragonair just before Claire, it was a 3-hit KO with the return. So that makes me pretty nervous. I think we're going to need a lot of luck with Confusion to get through this. Let's see how it goes. So Claire attempt number 1. We're going to lead off with Confuse Ray on the first Dragonair. It hits itself in Confusion, which is nice. Return, it hits itself again, and we return. So we get through the first Dragonair. We get to level 41. We can learn Hydro Pump. I'm not sure we learned this move because while it is stronger, I mean, what are we going to replace? I think we still want Thunder for the Kingdra at the end of this, and I think we need Return for these Dragonairs. So I'm going to currently skip this move. I'm not sure if it's the correct play or not. Definitely tell me in the comments. The higher power might actually matter later on, but here against the second Dragonair, we confuse it, we hit the return, it hits itself again, we once again hit the return, so we've made it to the third Dragonair with no status. Now we get Thunder Wave, finally, but we can go return right here. It Thunder Waves again. It's still confused, but Slam's not doing that much. We might be able to just get through this one. Sure enough, we can. Now it's Kingdra time. It hits the Hyper Beam. We get to low health. It's going to have to recharge. We hit Thunder. We get the Paralysis. We hit Thunder again. She's on a sliver. If she had just hit herself, we would have won there. She was on 2 HP. In fact, it could have been a range for all I know. So this is looking really, really close. Granted, that was really good confusion luck on the first 2 Dragonairs last time. I'm not sure how often we get that level of luck, so we're going to have to sit here and reset quite a bit on this one, I think, in order to have an actual chance of getting through. This time we're back to Kingdra on better HP. It goes Surf turn 1. We hit Confuse Ray. Now it's Dragon Breath. We go for Thunder. It's confused. It hits itself. We hit the Thunder, so we actually managed to win on the 6th attempt against Claire. I was just resetting for good luck against the first Dragonair, but Cheenchou does manage to get through with this setup. It's not pretty per se, but it's not as bad as some of the other Pokemon that we've run in this section. So I do think that it's worthwhile just saying this Pokemon does in fact get through. Keep in mind, we've got Rain Dance strats to go together with Surf, so we can power up Surf that way later on, even though we didn't get the Hydro Pump. That move will also synergize well with the Thunder when we get to, say, Lance at the end of the game, if we can get there. So I think there are some chances for this Pokemon. It's just not necessarily going to be the prettiest range as we go through the game, but we're just going to have to see how it actually works out. Here we can get through the, White Knight down there who's trying to protect Claire's honor, in spite of the fact that he only has 1 Dragonair compared to her like 4 Pokemon. And now it's time to make our way off to Rival 5, and at least we'll get Chinchou to the doorstep of the league, a Pokemon that I wanted to eliminate so many times because of how inconsistent it felt, and yet it seems like we're actually getting there in the end. So now it is time to see how we do in the Rival 5 fight. Meganium is the Pokemon that we just don't have anything good for. We're gonna have to see if it works out. We might still have to Thunder on the Haunter. I'm not sure. Let's find out how this goes. So here we lead off against the Sneasel. I'm going Thunder since it's the strongest move. It is not a one-hitter. It is a two-hit KO. That brings out the Meganium next. We're going to confuse it. It hits itself in confusion once. That's perfect. We can see we're not doing great damage with the return. We get poisoned, but we might get the range after it hit itself in confusion. No, we do not. So we're going to have to knock this one out on the next turn. That brings out Magneton. We have to go Surf here. It's a two-hitter, and we simply get destroyed. Let's try this one again. This time we crit against the first Sneasel, so we get here on no damage to the Meganium. I'm going to even Thunder here, trying to get Paralysis. We get it. So now we've got some Parafusion strats going. The Razor Leaf still does a lot of damage, and we're on low health because we simply could not get that Pokemon to hit itself in confusion. I think we have to confuse Magneton. It didn't hit itself in confusion, but when we know that's not a one-shot, I think we have to go for the confusion hacks there in order to try to get through. Still, I think that the Parafusion hacks are the best way to try to get through Meganium, and if it just goes Razor Leaf and gets crits, we're gonna lose every time in that case. Once again, we get Meganium confused and paralyzed. It hits itself in confusion. We're getting through this Pokemon on full health. Now to Magneton, I think we're fine to just go for the Surf since it's not going to one-shot us here. We will get paralyzed, but I think that's going to be okay. Against the Haunter, it goes Confuse Ray. We hit ourselves in confusion. Now we get Shadow Balled. Now it goes Curse, and we're fully paralyzed, so we're simply losing that one because of the paralysis. So we may need a Paralyzed Cure Berry to get this to go and to get really good Parafusion luck against that Meganium. Still, we have a semblance of a strategy here, Star DF, so let's try to get it to work. This time we get a Razor Leaf miss and multiple turns of Meganium hitting itself in confusion, so we can get to the Magneton again. This time it goes Thunder Wave, but we had the Paralyzed Cure Berry, so we get through that Pokemon. Out comes Haunter. I'm going Thunder. We miss. Unfortunately, we hit ourselves in confusion the next turn, but it goes Shadow Ball. That gives us the turns that we needed. Let's go Return on Kadabra since it has lower physical defense. It goes Future Sight, but I think that's fine. We just need to hit Thunder on the Golbat. We miss. We get hit by Bite and Future Sight, but then we get to the one-hit KO after we manage to hit the next one, still with 53 HP remaining on Cheenchou. So it took a few attempts there, but Cheenchou ultimately does get to the league. It requires a little bit of confusion and paralysis hacks to get it to go on those rival fights. I think that's what we're also going to have to do in this next fight against the Exeggutor, but it at least gives us a chance. And as long as you're saying there's a chance, we can progress in the game with this Pokemon. We'll at least have neutral or effective damage for pretty much everything else until we get to the Vileplume on Karen's team. We'll just have to see how that one goes. But for now, Star DF, I want to give a massive thank you. Already 19 months supporting the channel. You have already managed to knock Chuck out with this Cheenchou, and in fact, it's ready to go on to the league, which is nuts. I never would have predicted that, especially with how bad some of that earlier game section went with the slow level up group and the low stats. The moves are coming in at this point, and that is turning out to be enough to make Cheenchou a potential Johto League champion. That's going to be nuts. But for now, thank you so much, Star. Appreciate you for your support of the channel. Let's keep running this thing up and see how it goes in the league. So coming back to look at our results so far, we're now up to 20 Pokemon legitimately getting through this section. Only Meganium is down there in the OPTMs category because it had to use the Hidden Power Dark. We've gotten a bunch of member picks through, and now it's time to move to our ground types, Sandslash and Sandshrew, because we will be getting that member pick in no matter what. We're going to have to see how they go. Rollout strats could be something here. I'm honestly not sure, but we're just going to have to see if we can get through Clair. So here with our Sandslash, we're coming in with Dig, Defense Curl, Rollout, and Slash. Defense Curl Rollout could help us here. We're obviously not going to get Thunder Waved with this Pokemon, so we may be going for some sort of flinch strat in order to actually get through Clair. We'll have to see how strong Slash is, though, especially if it can get some crits. And we also have to keep in mind that we could be in a situation where we just go maxed out Power Return, take advantage of our higher attack stat in order to get through that section of the game with some sort of neutral damage. We're just going to test a bunch of things out, but for now, it's time to get into the Rocket storyline. This should be super easy. Let's just see how it goes. And now here our Sandslash does make it to the Marlboro Man. We're going to show that you just put out his smoking habit down on the ground by just spamming dig the entire time. Stab dig is more than enough to one-shot against the coughings. Let's see how it does against wheezing when it does finally come out. He's avoiding sending out the wheezing, which makes me think we one-shot there too. Sure enough, wheezing comes out and it's not a one-hitter, it's a two-hitter, but we get a flinch, so we easily win on the first attempt. It's time to go to the basement and take on our rival. Now that we've shown that you can just simply use dirt to get rid of the Marlboro Man, Sandslash once again demonstrates that it's important, kids, to say no to the Marlboro Man, no matter how interesting his adverts look. Sandslash shows you what you should actually do. Anyway, we make it down to the rival. He's going to lead off with the Golbat here. Our best play is to go Slash, I think. This looks like a 2 or 3 hit KO. We get confused. So we get the 2-hit range, so that's perfectly fine. That brings out Meganium. I think we need to roll out on this Pokemon. We're getting wrecked by the Razor Leaf, and that is the problem. So I think I'm going to go for a Defense Curl rollout this time. Start setting it up on the Golbat and see if we can knock out that Meganium. So we'll lead off with one Defense Curl. We get a Wing Attack turn 1 from Golbat. That's nice. Now it goes Bite, so we just get 2 rollouts set up there. We can hit the first rollout on Meganium. That's a one-hitter, getting us to level 36. Sneasel comes out and goes Feint Attack. That's going to do nothing. Magnemite comes out. We finish the rollout right there, and that will bring out the Haunter, where we can just dig. And obviously it can't curse while we're underground, so we get the easy victory on the second attempt. But it turns out that the rollout strats are going to be the play against the rivals here. That we'll definitely keep in mind for Rival 5 if we get there. For now, we're going to be perfectly fine against all these random rockets, so let's just go ahead and beat up on all of them, make our way up to Mr. Meet Your Doom, and I think we'll get a pretty easy victory there, but we'll just have to see. Now, sure enough, we make it to the final executive with no issues, so it's time to just dig all over the dog Pokemon that can't use dig. So let's go. Houndour gets one shot with a crit. That brings out the coughing. We just stick with dig, getting an easy one-hit KO. And now Houndoom, we dig, it tries to feint attack, and we get the easy one-hit KO victory. So Sandslash, really not bad in this entire section of the game. The only real problem is that it's just kind of tedious, the extra turns that it takes for dig, but there's never really a spot where you're worried about the ranges or worried about taking too much damage. But now we've got to move on to Clair. One idea for Clair is to use the move Sunny Day in order to reduce the damage that we take from her water type moves, which could be helpful for this Pokemon, though it might be better overall to simply go for the flinches, crits, etc. in order to try to get through the Dragonairs. We're going to have to see the exact ranges to determine what strategy works best. There is one Dragonair that has electric type moves that won't be able to do much to us. I'm assuming she'll put that one out last after the Kingdra, so that could be the spot where if we get to that Dragonair, we've basically won the fight. We're just gonna have to see about the other 3 Pokemon that all have at least Surf or Ice Beam to use against us. They could be the ones that wall this Pokemon and basically make the fight impossible. It's gonna depend entirely on the ranges. We might go for the max power return here in order to get more damage output. We might be looking for a really lucky range with the rollouts, but this is a Pokemon where we can't just get some sort of setup because she misses Thunder Wave, because she's not going to use that move. It's not effective against our Pokemon. That's why I think ground types will actually significantly underperform here against Clair compared to a lot of other Pokemon, because you're taking one of these strategies that you can use to get her to waste turns against you and give you the chance to get setups, and you've completely taken that away. So I do think the King's Rock will be the best play here, but let's just see if this actually works out. And one thing that I can say for sure is that Dig did not one-hit KO on the Dragonair just before Clair. If we had a move like Earthquake here, I think it would completely crush. We just don't have that as an option. Dynamic Punch strats could be something to go through here. I don't think we'll get enough turns to set up something like Fury Cutter. So otherwise, Max Power Return seems to be our best play in this section. But keep in mind, the Max Power Return's only a little bit stronger than the Stab Dig here. So it's not going to be great. We're just going to have to see how this actually works out though. So Clair attempt number 1, I want to lead off just by seeing how we do with damage with different moves. and I want to see if we can survive a turn to set up a defense curl or not. We get surfed, but we do survive, so we can start setting up rollout here. This is going to be a 2-hitter on the first Dragonair, but I think we're one-shotting on the other Dragonair. Sure enough, we one-shot the next Dragonair. We get to Kingdra, which is a 1-hit KO. Last Dragonair comes out, and we do get the one-shot. So rollout strats are actually the solution there. As long as you can survive that 1 hit to set up the defense curl, which we can, that's all you actually need. And then you just can 2-shot the first Dragonair. Rollout always lasts for 5 turns, so you simply get through. That is ridiculous, but hey, we'll take it, as Sandslash now gets to progress in the game. It all comes down to the fact that Surf isn't a same type move for the Dragonair, so it's not going to deal enough damage to stop you from getting the setup and then going for the luck to get the KOs. Now that move could turn out to be much stronger later on when we get to some of these rock ground types that are going to be 4 times weak there, but at least for a Sandslash that only has a 2 times weakness, that non-stab move is not enough to KO us, which is kind of shocking to me that there's that sort of strategy that simply works here. And remember, Defense Curl is on this Pokemon's level up learn set. That's why we could go Defense Curl rollout here. You don't need the TM. The TM is available now, so we could always forget Defense Curl, relearn it later. We've got tons of strategies available to us as we go into the Rival 5 fight. But for now, I think this is going to be enough. If anything, I may change my moveset to give Earthquake since it's our strongest same type move. And Earthquake, because it's a same type move, will always be stronger than Return, so there would be no reason to learn the move Return here unless there's something that resists the ground type. We may be looking specifically at Willy Boy's team, since 3 of those Pokemon will have that resistance. But there, the Defense Curl rollout might be enough to get us through. We're just going to have to see. So of course, we will pick up the Earthquake TM just to have it. I'm not sure I'm going to go for that move immediately though. Let's just test the Rival once without it. If there's a clear spot where we need the Earthquake to deal more damage, I'll think about throwing it on. So here against Rival number 5, my strategy is going to be to lead off with Defense Curl. He goes Fury Cutter, that's fine. We go Rollout, and the critical hit one-shots against the first Sneasel. I'm not sure we wanted the one-hitter there, but then we flinch the Meganium, so we get a 2-hit KO. Golbat comes out just to get destroyed in a single hit. Kadabra comes out, and we miss with the Rollout. We'll just go Slash right there, that's perfectly fine. Time to dig against the Haunter. We will get hit by Future Sight, but no, we won't. We're underground. Wait, you can dodge Future Sight underground. That's nuts. And now we can simply dig, and Magneton has no answers. No need for Earthquake there. It's actually not necessary at this point. I'm going to put it off for now because I think there are some fights where we just won't need that. You know, I mean, it's not going to give a massive advantage against Will, at least. I think by the time we get to Bruto, we definitely want it, but I'm not sure if it's going to be the best play on Koga. We might want to forget Dig in order to learn a different move for the next 2 Elite 4 members. But for now, man, oh man, this Sandslash just manages to get all the way to the league without really any major issues. I thought it was going to struggle on Clair. It did not, and it's progressing. It's time to look at our member pick now, which is the Sandshrew, Pango being supported by Luxe. Let's see how this one goes. So here with Pango, we are coming in with Swords Dance, Rock Slide, Slash, and Earthquake. If we can survive to set up a Swords Dance, we might be perfectly fine against Clair. We're just gonna have to see how this one actually works out. But for now, let's just get all the levels in the Rocket Hideout. We should have more than enough damage output with the Earthquake and the Swords Dance, so I think this is gonna go just fine, but let's just verify. I think if we have any issues in this section, it's really gonna come down to our speed being the main problem for this Pokemon. Now, sure enough, we make it to the Marlboro Man with this Sandshrew. We've got the Quick Claw on just in case, but basically, I think I'm just going to go 1 Swords Dance at the start. We do get smoke screened, but I'm doing the Swords Dance to hopefully be able to guarantee a 1-hit KO on the Weezing. Earthquake is obviously going to destroy all of the Coughings. This is the only Pokemon that might survive, and it does not. The Swords Dance at least guarantees that we get the KO there. We could level up and learn Fury Swipes. We will not learn Fury Swipes. We've got much better moves. And here with that, I think we're getting through this fight on the first attempt with really no issues, because what can the Coughings do? Absolutely nothing. But unfortunately, I accidentally evolved into Sandslash, so I'm gonna have to reset to avoid that. Let's try this again. And of course, we just easily beat him again, and this time we avoid the evolution, so we can simply make our way down to the basement. It's time to fight against the rival. Let's see how Rival 4 likes our little Sandslash, given that we are going to be slower. I think there's a decent chance that we could get wrecked by the first Golbat with confusion strats, but I am still going to set up Swords Dance at least once there so that hopefully we do more damage on Meganium. Let's see how this goes. So Rival 4 attempt number 1, sure enough, we are slower than the Golbat. It goes Confuse Ray. We're trying to go for Swords Dance. Instead, we hit ourselves in Confusion, and it's getting the Confusion and Flinch strats on us. So we simply lose the first attempt. I think we need a Quick Claw activation here. This time we do get the Swords Dance at least. We'll go for the Rock Slide if we can manage to hit it. At that point, it will one-shot against that Pokemon. Out comes Meganium. We don't have anything really better than Rock Slide here, and unfortunately, we didn't get the Quick Claw, so we lose. That is the real issue of this Pokemon, is going to be speed. When you consider that it also means that we always get the chance to get confused here, we're kind of in trouble. And one Swords Dance only takes the Meganium down to about half health with Rock Slide. Technically, Slash is a little bit stronger. It has a higher crit chance, so I guess we should go for that. Let's just try this one again. We kind of like when the Golbat just goes Bite against us, since that guarantees we can set up. Now back to Meganium. We're going for Slash. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the Quick Claw there to activate. Now, there is a possibility of setting up 3 Swords Dance against the first Golbat, just hoping that we don't hit ourselves in confusion. Unfortunately, we get a ton of flinches there, so we didn't get the chance. So now let's just see if we can get a Quick Claw with all 6 stages of attack set up. Unfortunately, we don't get it there, but that is the possibility for maybe getting a one-hit KO on that Pokemon. So this time we snap out of confusion. We go to Meganium, but again, no Quick Claw. That's what we're banking on, is the Quick Claw on the Meganium when we do manage to get the setup off. I would love to go for something like a Bitter Berry to avoid the confusion. The problem is that we have to outspeed on that Meganium to survive, because there's no way that we set up anything here on Golbat and still have enough HP to survive against the Razor Leaf from the Meganium because of our lower special defense stat. That's really hurting us in this one. But I think being on +6 attack is the only way that we get through the Meganium without being hit back and needing a critical hit or something in order to make that one work, which I've said before, Quick Claw plus a critical hit is too much luck in my opinion, which is why I'm going for this strat instead. And I'm going for +6 on the basis that on +2 we were only doing about 50% to the Meganium, which means that we would need to 4x our attack stat in order to be able to get the one shot, at least with our current moveset. There is also the 5% chance for the Razor Leaf to miss on the Meganium, which can help us as well if we just manage to get that luck. So this is certainly not an impossible fight by any means. It just seems to be very, very luck-based to get through. This time we get the miss and we get the crit, so we one-shot against Meganium. Not sure if we would have gotten it without the crit, but that does bring us to Sneasel. I'm going to go with Slash since this is 100% accurate. That brings out Haunter. I only have Rock Slide available to me, but I get the Quick Claw and knock that Pokemon out, and that brings out the final Magnemite. Slash does get the KO there. I apparently came in with no Earthquake PP. It didn't end up meaning anything because once you get all that +4 setup, the Magnemite can't actually stand up there. It might have depended on the crit, but I think we're perfectly fine to progress here. Pango gets through. It just needs that Quick Claw or the miss from the Meganium in order to get it to go. But Quick Claw plus the chance to get a miss is better odds than a critical hit. So I think that's perfectly fine. So we can now move on in this section of the game, where fortunately all of these rockets are so underleveled that Earthquake is more than enough to destroy them. So I think Pango's getting to the final executive with no major issues. Let's just see how he goes and see if we can make our way on to Clair. And sure enough, Pango makes it to the final executive. He's going to say meet your doom, but we're just going to come in with the Earthquake and one-shot the Houndour. Earthquake, one-shots on the Coughing. Now let's see the range on Houndoom. We move first and we get the one-hit KO. So there we go. We get through that super easy. The wannabe Giovanni right there just never stood a chance. And we're ready to move on to Clair's gym, where yet again, Sunny Day strats could be a try. We could even forget the move Slash to learn Sunny Day, hoping that then we could set up something in order to actually get through this next gym. We're just going to have to see how it works out. I think this is going to be our toughest fight against Clair yet, just because of the fact that she's going to lead off with the first of those Dragonairs that knows Surf and is not going to use any other moves. But if we can survive one turn and we can get maybe good Quick Claw luck, we might be able to set up Swords Dance and then sweep through the team. We're not going to have the built-up power of something like Rollout, but keep in mind, Rollout would have to hit like 3 times before it's as strong as Earthquake anyway. And with the Swords Dance, Earthquake's going to be powered up quite a bit. So that's probably our best shot of getting through this fight, I have to think. And I honestly can't think of anything else that will get us through at this point. In fact, it's probably worth it to at least see the ranges before we even set up any Swords Dances. I just expect that we will need Swords Dance to one-shot on the Kingdra, and I think if we don't one-shot Kingdra, we're dead. So that's basically my logic here. We're just going to have to see what the ranges shake out like as we go through this one. And sure enough, on the Dragonair, just before we get to Clair, we see it's a 2-hit KO with the Earthquake. So we're not going to be getting a one-shot without setting up some Swords Dance here. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get the luck. We have 69 speed, but I'm not sure that that nice speed number is going to be good enough to get us through this fight. Let's get into it and see, but I'm not feeling confident with only 60 special defense. If they used physical attacks, I'd feel great, but the special attacks, that could be a serious problem. Let's get into this. So Clair attempt number 1, we are just faster than her first Dragonair. I'm going to set up Swords Dance here. I did not recover PP in Earthquake, but at least we can see the range. We will one-shot there with the Earthquake on the first Dragonair. Let's just see what Slash does. It does not get the one-hitter, so we're going to need all of the Earthquake PP. Let me just get that corrected very quickly. And now it's time for round 2 against Clair. Let's see how we do now with PP in Earthquake. So I'm going to go for Swords Dance here. We'll get Surf. We cannot survive 2 Surfs, so I think we can only go for 1 Swords Dance. We go Earthquake, one-shot. Second Dragonair comes out. We go Earthquake again. Once again, a 1-hit KO. Kingdra comes out next. It is faster than us. We can only hit it with a Quick Claw activation here. We get it, and we just barely miss the range. It has 3 HP remaining. Are you kidding me? This is the strongest move that we have available to us, is the Swords Dance powered up Earthquake right here. So there's really nothing to do at that point. We just have to try to get back there and hope that that was a bad roll. Otherwise, we're going to have to drop 1 or 2 rare candies to try to get through this one. And obviously, we only get to check the range on runs where we get a Quick Claw activation. And I'm not resetting here for a Quick Claw plus a critical hit. All we're resetting here for is just to see if there is a damage roll that gets us through that Kingdra, even if it has to be a particularly high one. We get to the Kingdra again, and this time we do get the 1-hit KO. That brings us to the final Dragonair. We Earthquake, and just like that, Pango gets through Clair. Oh my goodness, that is luck-based for sure, because it is a range there on the Kingdra. I don't know what damage rolls you have to get in order to get that to work, but it is just enough to get it to go. I think anything less than that with Sandshrew would be a loss, even with the Swords Dance on. And obviously without Swords Dance, you're not even one-shotting against the Dragonairs. So that was good, but now we have to see how far this Pokemon gets after the fact, as it's making its way to Rival 5 and then onto the League. So we're going to have to come tell these old guys here about the way that we managed to beat Clair with a Sandshrew. Obviously, they're going to be very impressed by the way that we just completely wrecked her, and they're going to teach her about damage ranges for a second while she gives us the badge. she's going to go warn Lance about this Sandshrew, but of course he's just going to laugh because he knows that he doesn't have to deal with the Earthquake. Maxed out Power Return could be a strat there. We might be dealing with the Rock Slide to try to get through his flying types, but it's all going to be Quick Claw luck at that point. I guarantee we're not going to be faster than anything. Maybe with rare candies we can get it to go, but I'm not super confident. I'm just going to be honest. I think at some point in the league we get wrecked, but I think we could make a deep run into the league, and it might be Lancey Boy who finally puts an end to this Sandshrew. We're just going to have to see. I'm pretty sure we'll get through the rival here with the right setup and luck, so that's what I'm going to go for. Quick Claw is going to be pretty much the main item of this Pokemon for the rest of the run though. Now we could level up and learn Sandstorm. I'm going to skip that move since Sandstorm is a TM. We could always learn it later. I don't think it gives us a massive advantage with this Pokemon, so we'll just move on with what we've got. I will pick up an Earthquake TM in here. Remember, this is a member pick, which is how it got Earthquake initially, and technically that means that at any point we could forget Earthquake, relearn it via TM right here, and that would be the strat to move on. For now though, we've got to try to get through the rival. I think we set up Swords Dance on the first Sneasel. I don't think it has anything too threatening. We should be able to knock it out. Then it's Quick Claw time on the Meganium to see if we can get the victory. Let's go. So Rival 5 attempt number 1, we're going Swords Dance right off the bat. We're getting Fury Cutter from this Sneasel, but we've got lots of defense, so I think this is fine. Even Earthquake should do the job right there. That will bring out the Meganium. We do not get the Quick Claw, but we survive against the Razor Leaf with 5 HP, so we do knock that one out. We're just going to need a ton of luck from here with Quick Claw though, and we just don't get it. So I think the Quick Claw is the key, or the miss from that first Meganium. Still, we at least know that Sneasel is pretty easy to set up on, so we should get a decent chance of getting through to the Meganium multiple times. And since we can survive there, we may as well play it out. Though the next Golbat, if it has a damage range that will one-shot us, we'll certainly just go for that. So we're going to have to get a little bit of luck to get through this one. In fact, at this point, I'm basically just going to reset whenever the Quick Claw doesn't activate on the Meganium. Since we're getting there very reliably, I think that's a perfectly reasonable way to go. And we should have about 80-ish HP left when we get there. This time we get Reflect from Meganium, which would have given us a second chance at the Quick Claw. Unfortunately, we just didn't get the luck to get it to go, but that is another possibility. If he goes Reflect or something like that, it could give us another turn to possibly get that Quick Claw activation. It's just random when he goes for that, but we'll keep that in mind as a potential strategy, especially since the crit from Slash would ignore that, and Slash does have a higher crit chance. So this could be one of the rare cases where going for a crit with the Quick Claw isn't actually as terrible as normal, but we'll just have to see. We get Poison Powder this time, and that does let us get through the Meganium. We get to the Golbat. I'm just going to stick with Slash here as it goes Bite. That's perfectly fine. Kadabra, I'll go back to Earthquake since it's 100% accurate and same type. Magneton, we outspeed, so we simply get a one-shot. And now if we don't get one-shot by the Haunter, we're going to get the victory. We get the Quick Claw, and just like that, we are on to the league with a Sandshrew. Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness, Pango. We're going to heal that poison right here. And it's just time to sit on the doorstep here with this Pokemon. Oh my goodness. Quick Claw puts in serious work, but the Swords Dance, Earthquake, and Slash are also nothing to be scoffed at. And I think this moveset currently could be good enough to get us through the next fight. As long as we can set up a Swords Dance, we might be able to just Rock Slide down the first Xatu. Quick Claw's obviously going to be required to get through the Jinx. That's the only way I see us getting through that Pokemon. We might be getting wrecked by the Psychics, but we might be able to outspeed against Slowbro and Exeggutor, and we might be able to get the setup there. So that's why I have a little bit of hope that this Sandshrew is going to progress. We're just going to have to see. But for now, let me give a massive thank you to Luxe. He's been here supporting this Sandshrew for 6 months now as a member of the New Bark starter tier of the channel membership. I can't thank you enough. And you've spooked Morty's ghost with this little Sandshrew, but clearly you even spooked the ghost on the Rival 5 fight, and you're on the doorstep of the league, my friend. Let's see how far this one can actually get. So with Sandslash getting through, we have officially gotten our first pure ground type through on minimal battles legitimately without giving it a ton of OP TMs, which is kind of nuts. I thought that those Pokemon would get walled here. We'll see when we get to the rock ground type. Obviously, we did the member pick previously that was that Onix here and found that it was pretty terrible to get through to this part of the game and required tons and tons of help, so I'm not super confident when we get to something like Rhydon later on, but we'll just have to see how it goes. Now, before we get into our final 2 challengers for today, I am going to do one more member pick. That is the Ponyta that's up there, which came in as a brand new member pick from member Lavendar Regards. We're going to see how this one goes as it goes through the challenge. So we're going to start a brand new game with this one, since it's a Pokemon that failed all the way back at the very start of the challenge. Now, people have questioned why I would do Pokemon all the way from the beginning of the game, in spite of the fact that we're all the way up to Clair at this point, and there are a few really big reasons for that. Number one, you've got to understand that on this channel currently, the channel members are the primary source of support that I get. Like, YouTube ads don't pay as much as the channel memberships do, certainly on a per view basis, but currently even in total, this channel is mostly supported by channel members. So it's thanks to them that I'm able to make as much content as I can here. And the fact is that right now I'm kind of in a tough situation being out of work. I made an entire video on my other channel, IRL Pokemon Challenges, just explaining what's going on, because I'm basically keeping non-Pokemon content off of these channels. Any updates or things about my life, I figure if you don't want to see them, I'm not going to clog up your feed with them. I'll simply put them on a separate channel. I don't care if that channel gets subscribers or views or anything. It's just kind of my spot to talk about what's going on. But the fact is that I am currently doing YouTube as my only hustle to make money. So the support from the channel members is just extra important right now. So even if you've got a Pokemon that you want to run at this point in the challenge, don't hesitate. Just consider joining that channel membership down below. It helps me a ton, and it's just a way to put out more content for you guys as well. But here, channel member Lavendar Regards has decided to support this Ponyta and give it an incredibly interesting moveset. We're coming in with Flamethrower, Double Kick, Attract, and Curse. Now, we're also going to have to set the DVs of this Pokemon. You see, Lavendar Regards requested that we set this Pokemon to be a female Ponyta. In Gen 2, that requires you to lower the attack DV of the Pokemon, and it depends on the gender ratio that the Pokemon has. In the case of Ponyta, it's 50-50 to be male or female, which means you have to have an attack DV of 7 or less in order to make this Pokemon a female Pokemon. So we are coming in with DVs set so that we'll have only 7 in attack, 15 in everything else. So it will be as close to max DVs as we can get without being max DVs. But that does open up some attract strats. So let's see how this goes. Obviously, for Rival 1, I think we can just double kick here. It's going to be perfectly fine to get us through that fight since he doesn't really have any moves. And now we can progress in the game. Let's see how we do against Falkner. First things first, he leads off with the Pidgey, which is male. So I'm going to attract it here to hopefully create the situation where he doesn't attack me every single turn. And I'm going to now set up some curses so that I take less damage from the mud slaps. Once I get a few curses set up, I will now go into the double kick here just to see if I can manage a hit. Of course, our accuracy has been tanked by the mud slap, but I think double kick will do a lot of damage here. We just need to actually land a hit. We finally get the KO there. That brings out the Pidgeotto. It goes for Gust. We will survive. We just can't hit any and we lose. Still, let's try this again, knowing that basically with a couple of curses, we're getting through this first Pidgey with the double kick strats. Here it's infatuated, so once again, we're going to be able to kick this Pokemon down once we actually manage to land a hit. That brings out the Pidgeotto. We're on better HP this time. I'm going to attract this Pokemon. Once it's infatuated, I think we've got a decent chance of getting the double kick. We hit one, we don't hit another, so we lose. Sorry, I don't have a berry on, but there's a little bit of a glitch in the overlay that's keeping me from setting that up. So I'm simply going to keep going with this. I don't think we actually need the berry to get through here. I think this really comes down to just how many turns of infatuation we can get from the Pidgey. But here we're back to Pidgeotto and we manage the hits. So we do win and get to level 9. Just like that, Ponyta moves on. We're on to Bugsy. Bugsy should be a super easy fight, but let's just see how it actually works out. Now, one big advantage that we have is we are fairly fast, so even though we are sometimes going for the curse, we will be able to outspeed things still. So I think that the curse setup isn't so bad with this Pokemon, and Flamethrower being as strong as it is will definitely help us in a lot of these spots as well. And here against Bugsy, we're just going to lead off with the Flamethrower on the Metapod, Flamethrower on Kakuna. We get to level 14 as the Scyther comes out. We can go Flamethrower as it just goes Fury Cutter. There's no way that move does enough. We just get the 2-hit KO. So just like that, Lavendar Regards is through 2 gyms. Super easy. Now that we've gotten access to these stronger moves, it's time to go take on the rival. He could be the toughest one so far, but we do have the Attract strat. Let's just see how it goes. So here with our Ponyta, we're going to lead off with an Attract on the Ghastly just to reduce the number of turns we get hit. I'm going to curse a few times as well, since that will boost our physical damage, which is what I think we're going to need in order to get through the Croconaw later on. We do get put to sleep here, but we've set up quite a few of our curses. Lick's not going to do a ton of damage. When we wake up, we can just Flamethrower and get the victory. Croconaw's out next. It goes Water Gun. We survive. Double Kick does decent enough damage, and then we simply don't get the 2-hit KO range. Oh no. Let's try this one again, seeing if we can get a better range on this setup. So this time instead, I'll just knock out the first Ghastly and then go for Attract on the Croconaw. It's Infatuated. Let's see what Double Kick does. It doesn't do that much. Only 11 damage here, so it would take 5 turns to knock this one out. Granted, we could get enough Infatuation that it's possible to get through, as it's just Infatuated over and over. So we knock the Croconaw out. We get to level 16. Out comes the Zubat. Flamethrower is going to be a 2-hitter here, but it does get the job done after Supersonic. So just like that, we easily win. We're ready to move on in this challenge. So now against Whitney, I think we're going to have to set up the curses. I think that's going to be the way to go, because I don't think there's any possible way that we actually outspeed the Miltank. It just has too much speed at its level to actually be easy to get through. What we can do is get access to Charcoal to deal more damage with our fire type moves. And at least Curse will reduce the damage we take from Rollout and Stomp. So I think if we can get some curses set up on the first Clefairy, that will be good to go. But let's just see how it actually works. Now I will pick up the Quick Claw just in case it comes into play here, since we could use that to outspeed even after setting up a lot of curses. And there could be a situation where with enough curse setup, we might just be able to double kick the Miltank down. So we'll keep that in mind as a potential strategy as we go through this. Goldberry is also in play here, so we'll just have to see what strategy works here against the Whitney gym, given the fact that she will be likely using Rollout because it's super effective against us. Whitney attempt number 1. My strategy here first is going to be to set up Curse. We can't Attract since we're all females here. Apparently that's the way Pokemon works, and then we get Horn Drilled, so we lose the first attempt. Let's try this again. Obviously it comes down to what Clefairy metrodomes, whether or not we can survive or not. We get Screech here, which is kind of bad. Then it misses Double Slap, then it goes for Mimic to get Curse itself. I think that's fine. I think we want all of the defense here and also to boost our attack as high as possible. So here we are. We've set everything up. We used the Goldberry. Now it's time to double kick, and that destroys the first Clefairy. We get to level 18 as Miltank comes out. It goes Rollout. It gets a critical hit, but double kick just 1 turn KOs it. I can't say it's a 1-hit KO because it hits twice, but that is enough to simply win the fight on the first attempt against Whitney. Goldberry seems to be the play there, since the Goldberry will allow you to recover all of that HP as you're setting up on the first Clefairy. And with that, we're ready to move on in the game. Let's just get that Squirt Bottle real quick and go take care of this Sudowoodo. And now here in Ecruteak, I'm basically just going to take on the Kimono Girls and try to go to Rival 3 immediately. If it doesn't work, then we'll obviously go to the Lighthouse as well. We just have to try to get as much XP as we can reasonably before the Rival fight though, since we know that we're going to need to either one-shot against that Haunter or we're going to get wrecked. I think we can one-shot the Haunter, one-shot against the Magnemite, then go for Infatuation on Croconaw and hope that that's enough. Now we level up enough that we could learn Stomp here, but I'm going to keep my moveset as is for now. Let's just see how this goes. Now, it is very interesting that the Kimono Girls are running male Pokemon. I thought the gender usually matches the gender of the trainer that's using the Pokemon, but turns out here, no, they're using males. So apparently we can use that to our advantage to attract against the Vaporeon here. That may allow us to get through this one, which is pretty good because otherwise we would have gotten 2-shot from the water gun. But here we managed to beat Kuni. We've gotten through all the Kimono Girls. We'll get the HM for Surf, and we're now ready to move on to the rival fight. Let's see how it goes. So Rival 3 attempt number 1. Let's go for Flamethrower on the first Haunter. It is a 2-hitter, but we just get Spite. So we get through that Pokemon. Croconaw comes out next. We're going to attract it. It goes for Water Gun. It did about 20 damage there, so it would be a 4-hit KO against us. We get the Infatuation there, and it looks like it's going to take 5 turns to knock it out with Double Kick here. So unfortunately, we get knocked out on the first attempt. Still, we could have a chance here. Might need a berry or something, but I'm going to test this a few more times just to see. Obviously, we could attract the Haunter, and that could stop it from using Curse against me. Here, it does in fact Curse, though, and there's not much we can do about that, and that's not going to save us when we get to the Croconaw. The only way that we get through Croconaw is if we set up our own Curse to increase our damage output at this point, because the Curse status is just too much to handle. Still, the fact that we don't get a 1-hit KO here does allow us to at least set up the Infatuation. We get Lick this time, which is pretty good. Then we get Curse, but now we've set up one of our curses ourselves, so we will have at least boosted damage here. We can see it still looks like it's a 4-hit KO range against this Croconaw, and so we would need some crazy critical hits to get through at that point. This isn't going to be a pretty fight by any means, but it does look like it will ultimately be possible with the right kind of luck. It's all going to come down to how many turns of Infatuation we can get from the Haunter. If we don't get any, then we basically get wrecked right here because we don't get the chance to set up any curses. We do get Leer from Croconaw this time, which is kind of nice, but it's still just not enough. This time we get 2 curses set up here, and we just get licked by the Haunter, so hopefully we can knock it out. Sure enough, we can. So we're going to the Croconaw with boosted attack. It gets 1 water gun on me before I go for the Infatuation. Still, it's infatuated there. It's going to take 3 turns to knock this Pokemon out, and unfortunately, it just manages to move too many turns. It turns out with 1 curse setup, we can still outspeed against the Croconaw, so that may be the best strategy. We might be resetting for a run where we just get 2 turns of not getting hit by this first Haunter, or it uses some like bad moves other than Curse. This time we get Spite, and then it finally curses against us, but we did get a setup at least once with the Curse there, giving us at least some semblance of a chance, though we're probably not getting through when we have the Curse status. I think we have to get through on full health with no Curse on from the Haunter in order to get this to go. So this does make a pretty strong argument for going down to the Lighthouse instead in order to gain some additional levels, since we are banking on quite a bit of luck here to get through with the attract strats. I'm not saying it's impossible. It certainly is possible here. It just depends on how many of those flips you win. This time we managed to actually get through Croconaw even. That's going to bring out the Zubat. There's nothing we can do but Flamethrower here. We do get the 1-hitter with a crit though, and that means we're going to destroy the Magnemite. So in fact, we actually do manage to win. Oh, the rival. He just, you know, fell too in love with our Ponyta. You know, he's basically emulating the fan club guy who wants to talk about Rapidash all the time. And that does get us through. So let's go to the gym. Let's just see what we can do against these Pokemon, get some levels, and then we can go to the Lighthouse. And then I think we try to take on Jasmine first in this one. I think that's the ideal play. We'll just see how it goes. Now, of course, we know the Mint Berry is the way to go here against Morty. We're just going to see if we can manage to get the luck. I think we might one-shot against the first Ghastly, but I don't think we'll one-shot against any of the Haunters. We obviously don't have a neutrally effective move that's powered up by the Curse in order to use there. So we're going to need a little bit of luck here with Hypnosis luck, etc. And maybe not getting Cursed, them trying to go Hypnosis instead in order to get through. Let's see how this goes. So Morty attempt number 1 right here. We go Flamethrower on the Ghastly. That is a one-hit KO. Haunter's out next. We are faster. We don't get the one-hit KO. We get the burn, and then it curses to just go down. Now to the Gengar. We're faster. We can attract this Pokemon. It goes Hypnosis turn 1. Let's see what the range is with Flamethrower. It looks like a 2-hitter here, and the Infatuation stops it from moving. We could level up and learn Fire Spin, but we'll skip that move for now. Flamethrower on the second Haunter. It goes Spite, and that allows us to get the victory on the first attempt against Morty. We simply burn out the ghosts there, and just like that, we're moving on in this challenge. And with that, we're going to make our way to the Lighthouse first. I think I'm going to try to take on Jasmine before even going to the Rocket Hideout. That will give us a badge boost in defense, which is our lowest stat currently. And I think with the curse strats, we will be able to make our way through there, maybe with a paralyzed cure berry or something, because we're going to be faster than the Magnemites. And I think even after some curses, we'll still be faster than everything in the gym. So I think we'll have a decent chance at least of progressing. So I figure I will at least try the randos inside of Chuck's gym just to see how they go. Let's take on the Black Belt bros right here. Let's first go for the Flamethrower, which is a 2-hit KO on the Hitmonlee. We take no damage there, funny enough. That brings out Hitmonchan. We can go Flamethrower here. It looks like a 3-hit KO, but we still managed to get through perfectly fine. And with that, we're going to be able to easily get through the rest of the trainers, I think. So let's just see how we do. Maybe we'll try Chuck one time. Now we might be in a range where we can set up like one curse before the Poliwrath and still outspeed it. And if that's the case, then that's going to be my strategy. Let's just see how this goes. We ideally want to infatuate Pokemon, maybe use curse once, as long as we'll still be faster than the Poliwrath, and then hope that the double kick does enough damage. Let's see how this goes. So Chucky Boy attempt number 1, I'm going to attract against his Primeape. So it just goes Leer there. That's perfectly fine. We will curse after that. It misses Fury Swipes. Now it's time to go for the Flamethrower. This is just going to be a simple 2-hit KO, so we get through that Pokemon just fine. Now we are in a speed tie with Poliwrath. It misses Hypnosis. We attract it. Now we're going for the double kick. Double kick is going to take quite a few turns to get through here. Surf does not quite one-shot, which is why it was going for Hypnosis there. I think a Mint Berry is the solution here. I've talked over and over again that in this series, technically we could wait out to get berries. In fact, it usually takes me quite a while between runs of Pokemon in each section, so berries replenish. So while I'm doing this all in one go, I will allow myself multiple mint berries here, and I think this is the strategy. Go for the mint berry and just hope that we can survive against some Hypnosis there and maybe get the win. So back to Chuck again. The attract strats are going to remain as the main strategy here, and then one curse, knowing that we can get the speed tie after this Pokemon. Here we get no damage from Primeape, so that's perfect. We're to the Poliwrath on full health. We attract it turn 1. It's infatuated. We go for the double kick. This time it goes Mind Reader. It misses the Hypnosis after Mind Reader because Gen 2. Now it surfs. We survive, and we double kick and win. Oh, Chucky Boy, come on. Oh, he punts yet again. Gosh, he's almost as good as punting as the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness. Chucky Boy clearly continuing his quest to be the greatest punter of all time. And that was easy. So with that, let's just go deliver the secret potion. And it's time to take on Jasmine, where I think we've got this one in the bag. We might even be able to set up 2 curses and still be in good shape here. But let's see exactly what the speed of her Pokemon is. So Jasmine attempt number 1, she leads off with the first Magnemite, which of course has no gender and therefore is completely uninterested in our Ponyta. I'm going to go for Curse here. She goes Thunder Wave. I really just want to see what the speeds are. We did not get through that one. We need a Paralyzed Cure Berry here in order to get this to go. Though honestly, it might not even be worth setting up Curse. I would only really want Curse defensively here. So let's try no Curse, just going for Flamethrower. Against the first Magnemite, we can obviously get the one-hit KO. We get to level 30. Steelix comes out next. It is male, so I'm going to attract it. I mistake and use attract again. We see Rock Throw did over half to us. The Flamethrower does over half to it. So really, we just need Infatuation here and we're good. Oh, we're good. So let's try this one again. We will once again Flamethrower. In fact, we don't even need Infatuation, I don't think. I think she has to Hyper Potion here. Sure enough, she does. So we'll simply knock it out from there. And that brings out the Magnemite, which we simply destroy. So we beat Jasmine pretty easily there. I should have just gone all in on attack, not messed around with Curse or Attract or anything. No, Ponyta just dominates that fight. And with that, we can now go to the Rocket Hideout, but we've already gotten a badge boost in defense. We've already made Chucky Boy punt. And what's Pryce gonna do? He only has Ice type moves. So I think we're getting through this gym super easy. And then it's going to be on to Clair. We will legitimately get to this point in the game with Ponyta. And it's just a matter of getting it through the first gym successfully. And after that, it seems like Ponyta is just fine. Still, we could run into a wall when we actually get to Clair, since she's going to have some type resistance against us. And I'm not sure how we're going to do with Attract strats there. We'll just have to see. It is kind of funny that in spite of the fact that we have a lower attack stat, we're still finding ranges with this female Ponyta as we go through this one. And it basically just goes to show that while, you know, Game Freak clearly in this generation had some gender bias going on, being a female Pokemon does have its advantages as you go through the run with Attract in particular. No wonder Whitney's like one of the only gym leaders that has a female ace. Now, of course, we get to the final executive in the Rocket Hideout, so let's just see how she goes. We're going to go Flamethrower on the Arbok, and it is female. We can't attract that Pokemon, unfortunately. Murkrow, also female, but gets one-shot by a Flamethrower, and Gloom is not going to stand a chance here. We just destroy it, and we're moving on in this challenge. So really no issues for Ponyta here. We're going to go take on Pryce. I think he's going to be easy, but let's find out if that's the case. So let's see, Lavendar, regards how easily you stunt on Pryce. Let's get into this one. We lead off against the Seal. I'm going to go for the Curse first, since I think we're going to end up kicking things here, and it's not like Seal really does anything that scares us. So we can double kick this Pokemon down. It's actually going to take a couple double kicks because it's not Ice type. Now we're slower than the Dugong, but we just get a one-turn KO there. That brings out Piloswine. It goes Blizzard. We don't really care even about the crit. He's going to Hyper Potion here, and that's not going to be enough. We easily get through. We could learn Takedown via level up. For now, I'm not going to learn it, though. I think we're perfectly fine, and we're ready to move on in this challenge with our Ponyta. No issues getting through the first 7 gyms. Like, honestly, I expected something to be harder than this up to this point in the run, but really nothing has been that bad. Now we're just legitimately to where we are with all the other Pokemon. So let's take on these Rockets and get to Rival 4. I think the Marlboro Man's going to be perfectly fine with the Flamethrower. We'll just have to see, but I have a lot of confidence right now. Sure enough, we make it to Marlboro Man nice and easy. Let's just see how he likes when we give him a Flamethrower. That's going to get him really coughing and wheezing here. We one-shot the first coughing, and with that, I think we're getting an easy victory here. Second coughing goes down. Third coughing goes down. Wheezing comes out, and it's going to be a 2-hitter. It smoke screens, but that doesn't matter. We get the 2-hit KO there, and as long as we hit on these last 2 coughings, we're good to go. Of course, we start missing like 100 times because of the fact that we got 1 smoke screen, but we still managed to get the victory on the first attempt. The executive had nothing to offer there. We can now move on to the basement and Rival number 4. He does have the Feraligatr, but it is stuck using only Water Gun. So I think that's going to give us an advantage here. We're just going to have to see. We might be able to Curse once and still outspeed there, since we have 101 speed thanks to our badge boost in speed at this point. So maybe this works out, but let's just test it out and see the ranges. So first attempt here against the Rival, I'm going to attract his Golbat, hoping that it doesn't move. It does get the Confuse Ray on me, and I hit myself in confusion, but it is Infatuated the next turn. I'm going to set up 1 Curse here, then it Wing attacks. Let's go Flamethrower here. This will be a 2-hit KO on the Golbat, and it manages to confuse me the next turn as we are in a speed tie at this point. Unfortunately, that seems to be the issue. We just hit ourselves so many times in confusion, and the speed tie was what ended up making us lose. Still, let's attract it again, Curse again. We'll take the speed tie here, since at least we know this is a 2-hit KO. after the curse. We managed to knock it out, so we're on about half health going to Feraligatr, and we are still faster, so we can attract this Pokemon. We hope it's infatuated. Double kick looks like it's going to be another 4-hitter. We get a nice crit there, and he's infatuated, so we get through just fine. That brings out the Haunter. I'm going for the Flamethrower here after it goes cursed. That will knock that Pokemon out. Magnemite is too slow, so it's getting completely wrecked, and that brings out Sneasel, which is of course a ice type Pokemon, and the feint attack doesn't do enough, so we simply win. There we go. Rival 4 only took 2 attempts to get through. Now we're ready to get through the rest of these randos, and it's on to Clair. That's where we're actually going to have some issues. I think we're going to have to see how it goes, but for now we are progressing perfectly fine. So here we do make it to the final executive, and it's time to just start kicking on his poor doggies here that don't know how to dig. We get a 1-hit KO on the first Houndoom. Flamethrower on the Coughing is a 1-hitter, and as we get to Houndoom, we can just go double kick, and it does actually get the 1-turn KO. I didn't think it was going to get the range initially, but it did ultimately work out. So double kick is a solution there against the dark types. So now that we've kicked Team Rocket to the curb, it's time to get to the proper gym. We have to find a way through Clair. And the question is, can we set up any curses here and still be faster than things? I do not think so. I think the Kingdra is going to outspeed us if we set up even one curse at this point, because it does have 83 speed. Still, we'll just see what the actual speed stat is when we get there. We'll just have to test it out, because if we can set up a single curse, that might help us massively. The other possibility, of course, is to see if something like Sunny Day could help us here. Sunny Day strats would make sense on the basis of number 1, getting less damage from the move Surf, and number 2, powering up our move Flamethrower. And then maybe with that plus some other strats we can find a way through. We'll just have to see. Now we could learn the move Agility here, and the only reason I think that this could make sense and even forget Flamethrower to learn it is because we could use Agility plus Curse in order to outspeed. I'm just not sure if we'll get enough turns. It might depend on attract luck. I'm not sure the gender of Clair's Pokemon. I haven't been paying attention to that, so it might not work, but I'm actually going to go for this. I'm going to forget Flamethrower in order to learn Agility, just so that we have that strategy later on where we can essentially go like attract, curse, one physical damaging move, and maybe make our way through things. It's worth noting we do have Iron Tail as a move that could hit everything on the Rivals team. Not necessarily particularly effective in all cases, but certainly possible. What I can say for sure is that with one curse setup, we were still 2-hit KOing against the Dragonair on this team right here. So we would probably need 2 curses to be able to set anything up. And here, I think maybe her Pokemon are female. We're just going to have to see on Clair. Let's see how this goes. So Clair attempt number 1. Sure enough, the Dragonair is female, so there's no way to get an advantage here by virtue of setting up the attract. So what I think we're going to do, we're going to give a Paralyzed Cure Berry. Since it does look like she's trying to set up the Thunder Wave, that probably means we're not getting 1-hit KO'd here. So let's just see if we can get some Thunder Wave luck that allows us to set things up. I'm going to go Agility first. We get the Thunder Wave, but then we recover with the Paralyzed Cure Berry. I'm going to set up Curse, and we need like 1 Thunder Wave miss, I think. Surf here we see does less than half from the first Dragonair at least, and that does allow us to get a 2-hit KO, but I'm going to reset there because we're on such low health. I think we need at least 1 miss from the Dragonair here with the Thunder Wave. We actually get that this time. I'm going to set up Agility. We get another miss from the Thunder Wave. Now it hits, but we recover with the Paralyzed Cure Berry. We've used 2 of our curses so far. That will at least allow us to knock this first Pokemon out, except we were fully paralyzed. We would have needed even 1 more turn of the Thunder Wave miss there in order to have any shot to even see what the range is there against the Kingdra. So let's try this again. It's all going to be luck based here because it's the 25% chance that Thunder Wave misses on any given turn that we're basically banking on, and that's what's going to make this one pretty rough. This time it gives up on Thunder Wave, so we still have the Paralyzed Cure Berry on. We can even Curse again, Agility again. We get the Surf, but now we might have the range. We at least get the one hitter there on that Pokemon. That brings out the Kingdra. Let's see the range with the double kick. Yeah, we're not getting through that. We're going to need a lot of luck here to get this one to go. And it's honestly probably just the issue that double kick isn't that strong. We might have to go max power return here in order to get this one to work. Now, before we go for that, I am going to go headbutt here just to see if that works for this Ponyta. Since we could get flinches in that case, that could give us the advantage. Still, we're banking on some Thunder Wave miss here in order to avoid the paralysis, but let's see what Headbutt does. It does over half. We get the flinch, and we get to knock the Dragonair out the next turn. We're going to be faster than Kingdra. Let's see the range. Looks like a 3-hitter. We survive Surf. We'll need another flinch here. We don't get it, so we lose that one, but this one looks more possible. It might take 2 curses and an agility to be faster and to have the damage output that we need in order to knock out that Kingdra, I think, but let's just see how it goes. It basically requires getting 2 Thunder Wave misses in this one in order to get the luck, but that might be our best chance at actually progressing in this one. In fact, it might not actually matter if we get Surf from the first Dragonair as long as we can get the flinch when we need it. So this time we get 2 Surfs from the first Dragonair. We do not quite one-hit KO there. We would need another curse to one-hit KO. 3 curses is what this is likely going to take. So this time we do get 3 curses set up. We can headbutt here in one shot against the first Dragonair. Kingdra comes out, we headbutt, no flinch, so unfortunately we lose. If we had gotten the flinch there, we basically would have had a guaranteed victory after that. The only reason I think this might be possible is because of the fact that the first Dragonair sometimes goes Surf against us. It seems to be random when it actually uses that move, sometimes even going for it turn 1. So if we can get a couple of Surfs here, that's basically what we're looking for. And then the rest of the time getting some misses from the Thunder Wave. It's definitely super luck based, but I do think that it ultimately will work out if we just get the right setup. And it might even be a case where if we had return rather than headbutt, we would have just one shot there against that Kingdra. I'm honestly not sure. I don't run damage calcs here. What I can say is that we've gotten the 3 setups here. We get the Thunder Wave and heal with the Paralyzed Cure Berry. If it goes Surf next turn, we're good. It does. So we're going to get through this Pokemon at least. We headbutt again to one-shot that one. Back to the Kingdra, headbutt, and no flinch, so we lose. So I'm going to go for the max power return here just to see, because that may be the move that actually gets us through here. It's still probably going to take the 3 setups on that Kingdra to get this to work, but I think that's our best shot in this section, just because Iron Tail would be resisted here by the Kingdra, so it's obviously not the play. So it seems like Thunder Wave is somewhat tied to our speed from this first Dragonair. If we can manage to set up 2 agilities without being slower, that seems to be when it starts to quit going for the Thunder Wave, maybe thinking that the Thunder Wave doesn't give it enough of an advantage. Still, this one, we're just getting a bunch of Thunder Wave misses. We set up the 3 curses that we need. Unfortunately, we do get paralyzed here, but we're still faster thanks to the fact that I set up so many agilities at the start. So now we are going to the Kingdra. It's going to hit Surf. If we survive, we might be able to win. Sure enough, we one-shot there. We're faster than the next Dragonair because we set up 3 agilities. So even after cutting our speed in half, we're faster, but we have to move every turn. We're fully paralyzed and we lose on the last one. Still, that is another strat. If we set up 3 agilities here, we can actually outspeed even after we get paralyzed. Unfortunately, we still need the luck to actually move, which is the main issue here. It's also the issue that Dragonair is then just guaranteed to go Surf every single turn, but it does make it worthwhile to go for 3 agilities here and just hope that it tries to go Thunder Wave again somewhere in there. We can actually outspeed in that case. Now, with all that said, it might be that we only need 1 curse to actually get through this, assuming that we're on full health. If we're on less than full health, then we need the 3, or we need a critical hit on the Kingdra to get this to go, because we can see we're doing over half damage to the Kingdra with our return on only one curse being set up, though we do have to set up agility in addition to that. So we might need one Thunder Wave miss, and then we can actually get through this. We're just going to have to see. I've just been trying to dial in the ranges as I've been sitting here resetting on this, and that seems to be it. If we don't get one shot by the Kingdra, we will be able to get 2 hits there and knock that Pokemon out. Even if she gets in the healing loop, we survive, she hyper potions, and that should mean that we can one-shot the remaining 2 Dragonairs. Here we one-shot there, sure enough, and the 3rd Dragonair gets one shot as well. So I was doing a little bit too much setup there. Of course, I never run damage calculations, so I don't know the ranges in advance. I'm just testing it as I go, but what turned out to work was to go for 1 curse and then go all in on the attack after that, and that does get you the range that you need. So it was easier than what I was making it for myself in that fight. There's no reason to even set up more than 1 curse and 1 agility. The agility is just so that you outspeed there against the Kingdra after the curse. And ultimately, that is enough to be able to get through that fight. So we'll just have to keep an eye on things like that. I do look at ranges as I'm going through, but I always come in with certain assumptions. Sometimes they prove to be right, sometimes they prove to be wrong. In this case, my assumption that we should set up curse and agility on the first Dragonair was right. It's just the number of curses and agilities that need to be set up don't need to necessarily go for the 1-hit KO there. As long as you have the power to get the 2-hitter and you don't get 1-hit KO'd, you're good to go. Now, when we go to the rival, we're going to have to change up our moveset to be something that can actually damage everything. So currently I'm thinking of Iron Tail, since we need a move that will actually allow us to hit all of the Pokemon and at least be strong enough. Iron Tail's obviously not accurate, but we do need something that can hit the ghost. Otherwise, we're just going to get wrecked there. And if we just set up all of the curses early on against the first Sneasel, I think the move is going to be perfectly fine even after we get to Feraligatr and Magneton. I still think it's going to do enough damage, but let's see if that's actually the case, or do we have to carry 2 damage dealing moves here? So my first try here, while it's not pretty, is to go for Iron Tail over the return. I know some people are going to be yelling at me about that in the comments, but I just want to see if we can get through with just 1 damage dealing move at this point with the curse, attract, agility strats to help us out. Let's just see how this goes. So first things first, the Sneasel is a male, so I'm going to attract it, hoping to gain some free turns. I will now set up agility a couple of times so that I'm fast and go for the curses here to increase my attack stat. Basically just trying to keep in a range where I'm faster than everything. We're getting feint attack at this point, which I think is perfectly fine because our entire goal is just to be faster than everything. We can, of course, use agility to guarantee that that is the case. And once we get on our maximum attack stat here, we can now just Iron Tail. Of course, it's 75% accuracy, but we do get the 1-hit KO. That brings out Feraligatr, which of course resists this move. I just want to see the range, but we missed twice. Finally, we hit, and we would have a 2-hit KO here with the +6 attack. So I think this is perfectly fine. Let's just try this again. Obviously, everything depends on Sneasel here and what kind of range we get. Still, I'm basically just going for +6 in everything, and then we will go for the agilities in order to make sure that we're faster than everything. And now Iron Tail will destroy this Pokemon. Feraligatr, we miss again, but this time we hit. I probably should have attracted this Pokemon. Still, we managed to knock it out in 2 hits. Golbat comes out, we Iron Tail and get an easy 1-hit KO. Haunter, we can hit the Iron Tail. Easy victory there as well. Now to Kadabra, it's a 1-shot, and that brings out the Magneton. We go for the Iron Tail, it's a 2-hitter here, and we get Thunder Shocked down. So we're gonna have to go attract more here in this one and get some better luck on that end, but this is clearly possible now that we see the ranges. So back to Feraligatr, I'm going to attract it this time, hoping to get some turns of infatuation to help us out. Instead, we get a critical hit Iron Tail, so we 1-shot there. We're again going to 1-shot the Golbat. We've got a hit on Haunter, we miss, it goes Curse. Still, we managed to get through. Kadabra, we need the accuracy, we get it. We're to level 46 going to Magneton. We hit the first Iron Tail. Here it's going to go Thunder Wave. We recover with the Paralyzed Cure Berry that we still had on though. And just like that, we win. Oh, there we go. Oh, the rival, he goes down. And just like that, Lavendar Regards gets his female Ponyta all the way to the league. We ended up with a moveset of Agility, Iron Tail, Attract, and Curse. I think this moveset is going to be fine for the next couple of members of the Elite Four. In fact, we may try to carry it all the way through Karen, and then once we get to Lance, we may have to switch to Headbutt or something like that to try to get the ranges that we need, knowing that he's very likely to go for Rain Dance turn 1. But I think we stick with being a physical attacker and trying to attract things, and that may be enough to actually get this Pokemon through. We're just going to have to see. But for now, Lavendar Regards, I have to give you a massive thank you. Thank you for joining in the highest tier of the channel membership. I'll just tell you guys right now, if I ever reach the point where I can support myself and my family just on channel memberships, I would gladly just turn off all ads on videos because, you know, I'm not trying to make crazy money here. I just want to make enough that me and my family are square and we're good. And people joining in the top tier like this go a massively long way towards that. So I can't thank you enough, Lavendar Regards. Thank you. And we're going to keep this Ponyta going in the next section to see how it does on the league. So with Ponyta joining the completed member picks column, let's now look at Togetic and Xatu. Both of these Pokemon are going to have type weaknesses, but more importantly, not a lot of strong moves, I don't feel like. So we're going to have to see how this goes. Let's lead off with Togetic first. So Togetic comes in with Fire Blast, Charm, Rollout, and Metronome. We would be so happy if this Pokemon could learn an Ice-type move, but unfortunately, that does not seem to be in play. So we're kind of stuck with what we've got right here. Metronome obviously could get us an Ice-type move, which would help a lot, but we're just gonna be stuck using what we've got for now. Let's see if it's enough to get through this entire Rocket section at least pretty easily. And then maybe the fast level up group means that we get a high enough level that we're fine against Clair. We'll just have to find out. Now, via level up, we get to learn the move Double Edge. And while I don't really love this move, I am going to learn it over Charm because I don't think that there's a lot of physical attackers we're worried about in this section of the game. Charm, I don't think gives us enough of an advantage. So instead, we're going to go for the Double Edge strat, giving us a strong same type move. Of course, we could replace that later on with something like Return, but I just want to see how this goes. Fortunately, we do make it to the Marlboro Man at the top of this section. Here, I think Fire Blast is probably the best play, given that his Pokemon do have lower special defense. So we are at least getting one-hit KOs when the move connects. That will bring us to the Weezing. I hit Fire Blast. It does over half, and then I'm just going to Double Edge that Pokemon down. We only have one more PP left in Fire Blast, but that's perfectly fine because we're going to get to the end of this fight. And now I think Double Edge simply ends it. Sure enough, it does. And that allows us to get through. I just didn't want to go Double Edge earlier because, of course, the recoil would stack up eventually and possibly put us in a bad range where he could like self-destruct and get a victory. So I think that was the correct play. But now we're ready to go to the rival in the basement. I think we're starting off with the rollout strat here against that Golbat. Let's see if we can manage to get it set up so that when we get to the ace or whatever comes out next, we at least have a lot of damage set up here. So rival number 4, attempt number 1. Let's lead off with rollout here. We're slower than the Golbat. It goes Confuse Ray against me. Still, if we can actually manage to set up a few rollouts, this will be a good move against this Pokemon at least. It turns out to be a 3-hit KO. Magnemite comes out next. It's going to be a 2-hitter, but we had the Paralyzed Cure Berry on, so we get through. That brings out the Haunter. It goes Curse. We still knock it out. Now to Sneasel, and I didn't come in with any Fire Blast PP. Clearly a mistake, so we have to go for the Double Edge. And now I guess Metronome for whatever we can get on the Crocodile. It just wasn't enough. Let's recover our PP, and now let's try this one again. So in fact, it might be better to just go Double Edge here on the first Pokemon and just knock out the Golbat. Magnemite, we can go for the Fire Blast as long as it doesn't miss. That will be a 1-hitter. Haunter, let's go for the Fire Blast, though we are slower right there. We can now go for the Fire Blast on Sneasel, getting a pretty easy KO. And for Alligator, I guess we go Double Edge just to see the range. We did about half. It goes Scary Face. and then Water Gun, and then we knock ourselves out with Recoil. So this one is clearly going to require a little bit of luck. Quick Claw could be a good strategy here, just because it could give us the advantage. I don't think we need the Paralyzed Cure Berry. I think it's more that we want a Quick Claw against that Haunter and maybe to get the one-hitter there. This time we burn the Golbat with a Flamethrower, so I'm simply going to knock it out with a Fire Blast, so I'm going to just let it go down from there. We missed Fire Blast on Magnemite, but it just went Thunder Shock this time. Back to Haunter. We get the Quick Claw, and we one-shot, so no curses on. Now we can go for Fire Blast. We miss, but I'm just going to start setting up Rollout on Sneasel so that hopefully we can knock out the Feraligatr. Unfortunately, we got a miss. It's hitting the Water Gun, but we managed to survive, and the Rollout does the job. We had to reset it up on the Feraligatr, but it was just a 3-hitter, and that allows us to get the victory against Rival 4. And with that, I think we're going to get through the rest of this section just fine. And really, Clair's going to be interesting because the first Dragonair doesn't have any super effective moves against us. So it is possible that we could end up being able to set up the Rollout on the first Dragonair, take it out, and just basically sweep through the rest of the team, or maybe get to the Kingdra that way. And if that works, then we would just need good moves on Kingdra, which could be perfectly fine. Now, it is worth noting that we can also learn Stab Fly if we want a move that doesn't have any recoil, though I think at this point Return would be the way to go for the max power. We'll just have to see. So here we make it to the top of the radio tower. I'm just going to go for the Rollout strat here. It's a 2-hitter on the first Houndour. On the Coughing, it's also a 2-hitter, but it misses Smokescreen. And if we hit the last hit, that's a 1-hitter on the Houndoom. So we do manage to get the victory. We get a move on, and it's time to see how we actually do when we get to Clair's gym. The most interesting thing here, of course, is going to be to see the ranges that we get. We're not much of a physical attacker with this Pokemon, so we really want to use special moves if at all possible. We also do have good defensive stats, so that helps us quite a bit, though our speed is lacking. We will only outspeed against the Dragonairs at this point, not against the Kingdra without the Quick Claw. Metronome always gives us a chance, but we're just going to have to see if we can get moves that are good enough or not, or if Rollout comes into play here, being a move that allows us to somehow set up enough that we can get through, with the special defense being good enough, hopefully, to allow us to survive some surfs. Here, at least with the Double Edge, we did manage to one-hit KO against the Dragonair just before Clair. So that gives me a little bit of hope that we might be able to get this to go, but we might need to upgrade from the move Double Edge to have enough HP to survive. Let's just see how this actually works out. So Clair attempt number 1, we go for Double Edge on the first Dragonair, and we just miss the range. That makes me think that this is a Pink Bow spot, so let's just see if that helps. So back again with the Pink Bow on, we go for the Double Edge, and it still doesn't quite get the range. And with that, I think we're going Return strats. We're certainly close enough there to justify going Max Friendship. And with the Pink Bow, we might be getting one-hit KOs on the Dragonairs. If we get that, I think we're good to go for this fight. Let's just see. So back again, let's go Max Power Return. And that does not get the one-hitter. It is still not quite strong enough. That is in spite of the fact that we do have the Pink Bow on and we've maxed out our Friendship. It just doesn't seem to get the job done. So with that, I'm going to change my item to be the Paralyzed Cure Berry, and we're going to see if a Rollout strat can work here on this fight. So in this case, instead, we'll go Rollout turn 1. We're going to reset anytime we miss the Rollout here. Rollout turn 1 does very little. We get a Thunder Wave miss, a second Thunder Wave miss. It's a 3-hitter on the first Dragonair. Second Dragonair gets destroyed. Third Dragonair also gets destroyed. So now we get to Kingdra on full health. I'm going to go for the Return as it goes for the Hyper Beam. It has to recharge. We don't quite get the 2-hit KO range. Still, it doesn't look like she's going to get any moves that are strong enough to knock us out. We had the Paralyzed Cure Berry on. It misses a Hyper Beam. So just like that, we do manage to get the victory. We might have been able to just stick with Double Edge there and it would have been good enough. I just thought we would go Return, even though it's a little bit weaker because we needed to keep the HP. Of course, the issue was that they buffed the power of Double Edge in Gen 2, which I wasn't thinking about. Rip. So technically, Double Edge is stronger there, which is why we did less damage after going for return, but we saw even that wasn't getting the one-hit KO, so it seems like this is probably the best play. You probably want return later on to not have the recoil, which is the main problem of the double edge. Though, honestly, that was a bit of a misplay on my part. I think I probably should have stuck with the double edge there, at least for the time being, until we managed to get to the league and find a spot where maybe, just maybe, the recoil was too much. But double edge is a really big trade-off because of that recoil. Still, with this, we have made it to Rival 5 with Togetic. I think we've got enough moves to set everything up and get the victory. We're just going to have to see for sure. Still, I think we'll be able to get it to go, maybe with a rollout setup on the very first Sneasel, or we might just have to go Fire Blast the first couple Pokemon in order to get through, and then try to set up on the Feraligatr since it doesn't have great attacking moves and we have great defenses. That might be enough for this Pokemon to progress. So Rival 5 attempt number 1 right here. He leads off with the Sneasel. Let's go Fire Blast on this one. That will get the one-hit KO. Magneton comes out next. We land Fire Blast and one-shot there as well. Golbat comes out. Now I think it's time to set up the rollout here. We get confused, but it's just going to take 3 hits to knock out the Golbat with the rollout. So I think we can get it as long as we just get the right luck. And honestly, we should basically always get to the Golbat as long as we don't get bad accuracy luck from the Fire Blast, since everything before that is pretty weak to the Fire Blast. Of course, the main issue here is confusion, which kind of wrecks the whole strategy. So we'll just have to see if we can find some way through even with that, just because I think building up rollout would allow us to really get an advantage after this on some of the upcoming Pokemon. It's also probably worth going Quick Claw here. Additionally, we should probably at least just test the range with the return here to see what it does. And it is a 2-hit KO, so I think that's the better strat. We can go Fire Blast on the Haunter after it just goes Confuse Ray. That's perfectly fine. Kadabra comes out, it goes Future Sight. We're just going to go return. Feraligatr is out last. We can return. It goes Slash. We do get hit by Future Sight, but it's only a 3-hit KO. So yeah, just going all in on attack and not worrying about the rollout is the better strategy there because of the confusion. And ultimately, it works out. So just like that, Togetic gets through to this section of the game. We have made it to the league. Hasn't always been pretty, but it has gotten the job done up to this point. We'll just have to see if its low attack and speed causes it to fail somewhere, because otherwise, I mean, it's fairly defensive, and if we just get the right special moves with the metronome, we always have a chance. Question is it a good enough chance to keep resetting for it? We'll have to do a little bit of research on that, but for now, we do get through with Togetic, and it's on to our final Pokemon, Xatu. Now, Xatu is coming in with Fly, Hidden Power Dark, Nightshade, and Future Sight. A very interesting moveset. I think the Fly is perfectly fine here in the Rocket section, so we'll just use that since it's our only same type move. We don't get any good, strong Psychic type moves until level 65 when we learn Psychic. We'll get Confuse Ray at level 50, which is obviously not coming in at this point. So we're just going to have to run with this moveset pretty much for this section of the game. Still, Stab Fly should be strong enough for most of these rockets here, so let's just see how it goes. So here as we get to the Marlboro Man, we have this really weird setup where Future Sight is our strongest move. So I'm actually going to use that early on and then go Hidden Power Dark, with the entire idea being that we can use the Future Sight in order to knock Pokemon out, like this Weezing right here. Once we get that one down, I'm pretty sure Hidden Power Dark just takes out the rest of the Marlboro Man's team. It turns out to not be a guaranteed one-hit KO on all of the Coughings, but it's still doing enough that with Nightshade, we'll simply get through here. Sure, we get poisoned, but at the end of the day, it's not really a hard fight for this Xatu. And with that, we're ready to make our way to the Rival number 4 fight, where, of course, he's going to lead off with the Golbat, but there's going to be a lot of Future Sight used here, and we can do these like weird Future Sight, Fly, Hidden Power sorts of strats where we can knock out one Pokemon and then let Future Sight hit the next Pokemon. It's going to be really weird, but that is technically our strongest move at this point in the game. So let's just see how this goes. So Rival 4 attempt number 1, I'm going to go Future Sight first. He goes Bite, which is super effective. I'm going to Fly here, Fly does not get the one-hitter, but the Future Sight will knock that one out. Magnemite comes out next. I'm once again going Future Sight, and then we will try to Fly. Unfortunately, we got paralyzed. I think we need a Paralyzed Cure Berry. So let's just see how this works. So in this one, I'm actually going to go for the Hidden Power Dark first, then set up Future Sight. Then I'm going to try to Fly. We'll get hit by the Future Sight. That's perfectly fine. Here we get paralyzed by the Magnemite, but I'm just going to go Hidden Power Dark from here in order to knock it out. It takes 2 hits. Sneasel comes out next. Against this one, I'm just going to go Fly. And then here on fairly low health, I'm going to go for the Future Sight. Of course, we get hit by a couple other moves, but we'll just knock that Pokemon out. Feraligatr comes out. I'm going to go Fly, hit it with Future Sight, but it missed. So this time we managed to hit Magnemite with Future Sight, so we can just Hidden Power it down from there. Sneasel comes out. In this case, I'll just go Fly immediately. It's going to be a 2-hitter, but we will get through this Pokemon. Now against the Feraligatr, I'll set up Future Sight. It goes Scary Face. We'll Fly. We'll just let that kind of work itself out here, and then Hidden Power to knock that one out. We get to level 40 as Haunter comes out, and we just use Hidden Power Dark, and that gets us the victory. So it's kind of a weird setup there that you have to go through, with some Future Sights being used in between other moves. And he has a lot of super effective damage against you with like bites and feint attacks and whatnot, but you can ultimately get that one to go. And with that done, I think we're perfectly fine for the rest of these rockets. So let's just make our way through into the final rocket executive. So it's not the fastest, but we do manage to get to the top of the radio tower, where I'm going to just Fly against the Houndour. That's an easy one-hitter. We can now Fly against the Houndoom. That is just barely not a one-hit KO, but we'll just Nightshade it down from there, getting to level 44. And now Hidden Power Dark is enough for Coughing. So we managed to get the victory on the first attempt. It wasn't too bad, though we can see we're not really like one-shotting things with our moves. There are a lot of these just like weird ranges and weird moveset choices that we have to make, where it's like, when do we want to set up Future Sight? When do we want to Fly? I'm just honestly not sure in a lot of spots what the best play is. I'm just kind of winging it as we go through this one. Now, what I can say for sure is that we are not one-hit KOing against Clair's Dragonairs. So I think we're going to need some different strategies here. I'm going to lead off first by having a Paralyzed Cure Berry yet again. And the idea here is that we could go for like an attack, a Future Sight, a Fly, like a bunch of weird different ranges to try to get through this one. We'll just have to see what the range is with each of our moves against the Dragonairs. Let's test this out. So first things first, I'm going to see what the range is with Fly when I use it against a Dragonair. It does over half. We can Hidden Power Dark from there, so that's fine. We can Fly again here. It misses a Thunderbolt and a Thunder Wave, so we managed to take the second Dragonair out. Third Dragonair, we can go Fly. It misses the Thunder Wave. It misses again, so we just knocked that one out. Now we're on Kingdra. I'm going to go Future Sight first as it goes Surf. Surf does about a third to me. I'm going to Fly after that. It misses Surf while we're in the air. Now it hits Surf, but it gets also hit by the Future Sight. I think we can Nightshade here to deal decent damage. The question is, can we take her down with a crit from Fly? Because we can't quite survive there. It does look like a crit will get us through this though, so I guess that's the strategy that we have to look for. The other thing that we might want to look at is going like Hidden Power on a Dragonair, then going for Future Sight against said Dragonair, and then going for like Fly and letting it get KO'd. We're going to need to not get paralyzed though, is the main key here. So even something like Nightshade, Future Sight, and then like the Hidden Power Dark, if we can actually manage the hit, will knock out one Dragonair. Next Dragonair will get hit by Future Sight, which puts it in a range to be 2-shot. And then we can use Future Sight against a Dragonair in order to get the move set up against an opponent with a lower special defense stat and use that against the final Kingdra. So I'm just going to test this out a little bit to see how it goes. Here we get Surf twice from the first Dragonair, so I'll simply knock that one out. Now we'll go Fly against the second Dragonair, hit it with Future Sight, and then get the Fly to hit there. Now Hidden Power on the Dragonair here does about half. We'll Future Sight, it misses Thunder Wave, so we can Fly and then hit. And now when we go to Kingdra, it's going to get hit by Future Sight here, dealing massive damage. That forces her to use the Hyper Potion, So let's just go for a couple of hidden power darks and then see if Fly gets the range. And we missed the Fly, so we didn't get the chance. Oh, that was ridiculous. Still, this whole strategy, I think, revolves around getting to the final Kingdra with no paralysis. And of course, Future Sight can fail some percentage of the time, which is also terrible. So we need a fair amount of luck here. Still, that will get us through the first two Dragonairs. We really like it when we see that we're to the last Dragonair with the Paralyzed Cure Berry still on, because it can go Thunder Wave. We don't care. We'll still just knock this Pokemon out. And now on Kingdra, we can basically go for anything. I'm going to go for Hidden Power Dark here. It will hit Surf, but we will survive. That will force her to use the Hyper Potion, allowing us to get a couple more hits to get it in a range. No crit here means we can go Fly. And now we hit and we do get the victory. We get to level 46. So it's like a bunch of weird hidden power, Future Sight, Fly shenanigans that you go into there in order to get the ranges that you need. But ultimately, Xatu can get the victory in that gym. Now, I think we're slightly over leveled. I think we used rare candies in the last section, if I recall correctly, which is why we're a little over leveled here at level 46. But honestly, I mean, that was the only way you were getting through Jasmine. We didn't have to go more rare candies here at least, so that's perfectly fine. And with that, we're ready to move on to rival number 5 and the league. Hopefully, we're going to have to see what kind of range we actually get in this fight against the rival. But Future Sight strats could be used here for some weird shenanigans and just all kinds of stuff to try to get an advantage to actually allow us to get through the 6 Pokemon that he has. The Sneasel out first complicates things a little bit since we don't have a lot of strong moves against it, but we should be able to find a range, I think, that ultimately works out. Now, interestingly, we do get Solar Beam here as we go into Rival 5. That could be a strat in the right situation, but I'm going to go in as I am first, and let's just see how we do against this fight. So Rival 5 attempt number 1. First up, we've got the Sneasel. I think we just go Fly here. We get a one-hit KO, so that's perfectly fine. Magneton comes out next. Here's where I think we have to go like Future Sight and then like Nightshade here, hoping to knock this one out. We do get the Future Sight to KO it at least, but we are paralyzed. We probably need a Paralyzed Cure Berry for this one. So let's simply try this one again, where this time, since I know what kind of range I'm going to get on Sneasel, I'm going to go for Future Sight and then use Fly to knock that Pokemon out. That brings out the Magneton. It gets hit by the Future Sight, dealing good damage. How much HP does it have? It has low enough that we can just Nightshade it down from there. That is perfect. Now I will go Fly against the Golbat. We get it on fairly low health, so we should be able to Nightshade it down. That brings out Haunter, which the play is to go Fly, which will just one-shot. Kadabra, I'm going to go Hidden Power Dark, getting a one-hit KO. That brings out Feraligatr. We'll go Future Sight. It goes Slash with a crit. We'll fly high in the sky. We miss the Fly. We hit the Future Sight at least. And the problem is Slash might knock me out the next turn. I'm going to go Fly here and see the range. We do not manage to get the KO. Unfortunately, the missed Fly actually affected that fight. So certainly not ideal, but there's not much else that we can do here. So I'm going to reset here and try not to use Hidden Power Dark against this Sneasel. That was just a pure misclick. Fly is the correct play here, and we're just hoping not to get that 5% chance to miss. Then we can Nightshade right here. Once again, we'll go for Future Sight on Golbat. Since we know it takes a couple hits here, we can simply knock it out from there. Haunter, I guess Hidden Power Dark is just as fine here as anything else. Hidden Power Dark on the Kadabra. Back to Future Sight for Feraligatr. We're hoping for no crits from its Slash. We survive, and this time we do get the KO with 5 HP remaining. So it's not pretty, but we do manage to get through the rival thanks to the weird Future Sight, Nightshade, Hidden Power Dark, and Fly strats. It's not making me super confident going into Willy Boy because I think the same level as like his first Xatu. I could be wrong. Hidden Power Dark probably carries us through the first fight though. We'll have to see how we do against Koga. Bruno, theoretically Fly should be good as long as we can get through that first Hitmontop. We should be fine. And then we get to Karen and she might just completely destroy us. We'll just have to see. For now though, Xatu moves on, so we did get through with everything in this episode. Let's just see our results so far.
So with that done, we're now up to 22 Pokemon up there in the past column. We're going to put Xatu in the OPTMs column since it was relying very heavily on the Hidden Power Dark, same as that Meganium. Like I've said, that's always going to belong in a separate category because of the fact that you don't know your DVs at the start of the game. So you don't know your Hidden Power typing. So we just have to kind of keep that in mind. Anyway, with that being done, we're going to be coming back next time with 7 more challengers. We've got the Nidos. We'll also come in with Flaffy and Ampharos. Finally, we'll have Azumarill in there, which will be a kind of interesting one as well, just to test a few things out. In addition to that, we'll get a couple of the member picks in on the action. But for now, place your predictions down below. How many of these do you think will get through next week? Especially based on the results that we've seen so far. It could turn out that we're not getting a whole bunch of Pokemon walled by this section, but just in the ones that we ran today, I think we can see some that are going to very likely have luck run out somewhere. Like Karen is going to destroy a lot of psychic types, I feel like, if they don't have good other moves to go with it. So I think that Xatu's probably out of there at Karen at the latest. Koga's gonna have a few things to say with some boom strats and other really trolly strats, so we're just gonna have to see as we progress. As usual, place your predictions for next time down below, but with that, I'll see you in the next one later.